The universe is in peril. We've got about 24 hours until it completely is destroyed. The only way you can help me save it is by watching Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast. I'll see you there.
Hello, it's time for Type 40 Live, your live-streamed Doctor Who magazine show, the live-streamed Doctor Who magazine show materialising here on YouTube, Rumble and Facebook. Whichever platform, time, stream or time zone you're joining us from, welcome. This is Type 40 Live. We hit your screen in real time with interrelative dimensional conversation and always in front of a live chat full of friends, fans and companions just like you there. It's really great to be back yet again. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. Here we are again, another week counting down to the 60th anniversary of the world's longest running best loved sci-fi and fantasy TV series and the whole Whoniverse around it, both on and off screen. I am Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, and we'll find out who you are in a moment or two. This time, it's a family affair. Ladies and gentlemen, the Doctor's family. Doctor's family? Surely not, that can't be right. Well, we're going to weigh up all the evidence about that later on in the show. Our family too in the live chat there across all the platforms on YouTube, Rumble and Facebook in the Type 40 Facebook group. Hello, everybody there. Don't forget, if you're in the Facebook group, hit the little blue link. Let Facebook know who you are, and Facebook tells StreamYard, StreamYard tells us, and all that jazz. We get on first name terms for another deep dive conversation that straddles the classic series, the new series, and stares into the unknown, directly into the line of sight of all new Doctor Who coming our way very, very soon, inching its way to us. And speaking of family, I'm joined as always by my brothers and sisters in fandom here in our console room. Firstly, namely, where is he? There he is. The ever colourful and the ever spiky-haired Mr. Simon Horton.
Well, greetings. It's not always spiky head. Sometimes, yeah, it is spiky tonight. I agree. Sometimes it's floppy. It just depends on how long it gets before I get it cut. Anyway, greetings.
I was going to say, you could say to me, it takes one to know one, really, couldn't you?
You are the king of the spiky hair, Dan. There's no two ways about it. We all bow down in front of you. You know, my spiky hair is merely an homage to yours.
Well, I thought mine was pretty spiky and pretty stand-up until I met Adam Martin. Hello, Adam, you're watching. Yes, but I'm a mere pretender to the crown. But yeah, here we are again. It's playtime again, Simon. And seeing... It is, and in the spirit of that, I thought we'd have a little bit of fun and get this Tardis console out this week.
That's a beauty, isn't it? I do remember that. Wasn't it the really tiny one that it came with? I might remember it. 60 centimeters. Okay, it was really on a very, very small scale, wasn't it? It was a really impressive thing. But it was on a tiny scale, as I recall.
It was completely scaled to the action figures at the time. From what I remember.
Okay,
yeah. But what I used to struggle with was fastening the bits of cardboard around the struts there. That's what so it would delay playtime by quite a while. Of course, this was for
by the time you'd set it all up, it was all over.
Wanted to go and do something else instead. But yeah. So I'm starting to wonder: did you have one of these, Charlotte Shields?
No, I didn't. I didn't have a lot of the Tardises or any sort of stuff. I watched the show, but I didn't have a lot of the toys.
Have you seen this one before, though? Or is this completely new to you?
I think I have, because I know Matt had quite a few different types of toys for his TARDIS, didn't he? With Lego and like these sort of ones with the figures.
Yeah. Matt Smith had several ones. This is the original one that came out, I think, with the sort of second or third wave of figures back there. If we can't quite nail it down to exactly when it came out, I suspect that Jack in the Nerd Den, he probably does.
Hello, everyone. Lovely to be back here.
Jack.
Hello, mate.
Hello, Jack.
Hello. And I used to have this, and I'm so gutted that I don't have it anymore because I did that stupid thing and I had to clear some stuff out when I was younger. And that was
we've all been there, Jack. We've all done it.
I've seen it at conventions selling for like 80 quid. I'm like,
Does it really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did yours go the way by where you see the sections around the base of the console where the little bits of cards start to pop out of the plastic?
Yeah. That's how mine was. And I remember it was a nightmare to set up.
They always were, though, weren't they? Like every TARDIS thing made as a toy. You'd think they'd make it simple, and they just didn't.
Yeah, no, they didn't. And I think I had the 11th Doctor one as well. I think that was the last one they did interior-wise.
Yeah. The problem with these, I found, Jack, was that they took quite a while to set up. And you stared back in wonder at your craftsmanship as you finally managed to do this, and then you'd accidentally knock it with something, or somebody would bang a door in another area of the house completely, and one of the bits would fall down, and eventually the whole thing would just cave in like a house of cards. I wonder, seeing as we've just been talking before we came on about growing up and the need to either not do that or to do that, and I think our expert on that subject is the writer and the screenwriter, the director, and that big old mega geek, Ian David Deere. So, Ian, in your expert opinion, does this pass muster as a good geeky toy?
No, it doesn't. It looks like. Come on, let's face it. I mean, you've got the cardboard at the front. That's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And
fair point.
And I never did like that design for the console room at all. No, I hated it. I hated it. So I would never buy this toy, tell you the truth. So
but it would have been cool as for a kid if you were into the Doctor at this time and you loved that console room. I would have killed for something like that at the top age of TARDIS.
But with toys, kids really handle toys. That's why toys have got to be so solid when it's put together. Like remember Tonka toys?
Yeah, but come on, remember,
it didn't break.
But do you remember the Dennis Fisher TARDIS that came out in 1978? Yeah. That was made of cardboard.
I know it was, but still no. You know what I mean? Cardboard fades, and you know what I mean? If you're going to make a toy, make it properly. Do you know what I mean? It's just
fair point.
Seems like a bit crap.
The best I can remember one of the most beautiful TARDIS sets, ironically, was the one that Dapol brought out in the late 80s, the Sylvester McCoy one. And although
notorious one.
Yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful. Although it had only got five sides on a hexagonal console, the actual model itself was beautiful. And do you remember the police box model? You literally broke into two pieces, and within, then you had the TARDIS, the roundels, TARDIS walls to put onto a diorama to make the backdrop for your five-sided console. It was beautiful. And the Time Roads even went up and down and lit up. Oh, it was magnificent.
Yeah. I shouldn't have said I should have tried to kid people that it was before my time, but I remember that one quite well. And we do have one more person to bring on. Now, when I look at this, I notice that the TARDIS doors aren't opening inward on this picture. They're opening outward, which, as we know, is heresy. But I think Starry-Eyed Girl Sarah Graham, I think she'll quite like that.
Yeah, well, it was true to the posters, wasn't it, as we discussed? No, and sadly I didn't have this, but my nephews had it, so it was always good fun when I used to babysit, and we used to play it. But yeah, it was an absolute nightmare. You'd put your figures in, and it'd all just collapse, and yeah, it was very frustrating. I do have the Lego one. I have the Matt Smith Lego one. Still built.
do
I think
ya?
it's up in the loft. Yeah.
Is that quite big? Is that quite a big thing? Or?
Yeah, it's quite. I'd say about the size of what a laptop maybe.
Oh right.
But yeah, you got the one I had Matt Smith with the fez, Peter Capaldi in Matt's outfit, Weeping Angels, Clara in the tartan skirt, and Daleks at some. They looked a bit samurai-y. I don't know what was going off there.
Yeah, I can't think of a story where we had samurai Daleks.
It did look, but yeah, I'll have to bring it down.
Yeah, you will. We need to see this now.
I've seen this. It
Yeah,
sounds.
that was a very fun Christmas day.
The fun and games are going to continue on this stream. We've got a lot to get into. Some of it serious, some of it not so. Some of it not so serious. But I think you're probably finding the tone already, aren't you? Now, believe it or not, there are people watching and listening along to all this nonsense out there on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook. I know. There's one more. Everybody.
Better with your lives, folks.
The pubs have closed early. Yes, so I think we should go and check out who's here in the live chat and what they've got to say about all of this already, and just say a few hellos and all that jazz. What do you think? Hey,
let's do it.
Welcome to Type 40.
Kids, eh?
No. How do, and a big how do to hi everyone. I should say for Lord Thoth. He's here.
Hello, Lord Thoth.
He reminds everybody to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Good man. Good man. Get it all off right away. Ahoy, shipmates, says Crimpling Doubloon.
Ahoy.
Ahoy. Oh, we've got hello from California, says Gary.
He's in California? Did not know he was in California.
Looks like it, unless he's an errant liar.
Maybe he's on holiday there.
Could be.
Oh, no.
Could be. A retro holiday, yeah. Hail the chat, says Raymond Williams.
Hi,
Hail
Raymond.
the chat, indeed.
Hail the chat. Where would we be without
Absolutely, where would we be? We'd be talking to ourselves. That would be ridiculous.
Who the hell is that then?
No idea.
Peter Harrington's in as well. Good evening, all
Peter.
live from the interweb. It's the show of the week.
Oh, thank you, Peter.
What was that? That was the
quiz of the week. Yeah, that was
that's
of the
right.
century.
The century.
Yeah.
And now from
old farts. Remember that.
Live from Norwich.
Live from Norwich.
Yeah,
Do you remember the silver knight on a horse that was revolving?
That was
all high tech in those days.
That was the station, wasn't it?
It was the station. It was just stuck on
Anglia, was it?
Anglia, of course.
Anglia?
Yeah. The old TV franchise. Of course it was. Of course
they
it
just
was.
got a silver horse and stuck it on an old vinyl.
I bet Carl here, the classic 80s fanboy, he's going to know which one
Yes.
it was. Good evening, friends. This is Carl with that very impressive beard.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Apparently, by the way, Retro Doc does live in California.
Oh, does? I never knew that. Oh, gosh.
A few gaps.
No, now, though.
Surprising. Tony Berriman's in too. Good evening, everyone. Evening, Tony. Hope you're okay.
We've got a grumpy face on the left there and a smiley face on the right, so we kind of covering all bases.
Hi, all Flint. Welcome back, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
In like Flint. Yeah.
In like Flint. Yeah. And we've got an evening all from Simon Ashley there too, Charlotte.
Good evening, Simon.
Lovely stuff. We have Cybermat Strikes says, hi team, I hope you are all well, fellow Whovians. Jack, where do you stand on the word Whovians?
Whovian. I mean, it's not really a word I use personally, but it's one that I've heard thrown around. So I just thought, it's like what's the one for Star Trek people?
Trekkers.
Yeah, I've heard that one as well. I'm guessing that's like just part of the club, maybe. I don't know.
Well,
there's one I cannot stand, right? And it's Docky Who. I cannot.
It's horrible, isn't it? It sets my teeth on edge every time I read that on Twitter. Somebody says Docky Who.
It sounds like a discount dog food chain.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely right. Yes, so very much in line with what we've said about the word Whovians. But Star Trek fans have that thing. They have that argument, don't they? Trekkers or Trekkies.
Yes.
I can't see that being settled in our lifetime, Ian. I think that's one of the...
Is the one for like Star Wars fans or not?
Yeah, well now it's idiots, isn't it? So there you go.
Is it Nerf? Is it Nerf herders? Something like that.
Nerf herder is a creature in the Star Wars universe, of course, but I don't know what it is.
That'll do. So let us know in the chat, Instagram and Twitter at Type40 Doctor Who. What do you call Star Wars fans? There, we have to know what to classify everybody else, don't we? Hello to all you children of time, says Michael.
Hello.
Right back at you, Michael. I do love Michael's title sequence there is most impressive, isn't it?
It is.
Quite cool.
Yeah. Doctor in Denim. It's what the series has been crying out for, Ian, isn't it? Doctors in Denim.
Yeah.
We might get it yet.
Don't get me started.
She's got enough costume changes. Come on, it's going to be there at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
They could have. That sounds like the title of Doctor Hook's greatest hits album, doesn't it? Doctors in Denim. Good morning, my lovelies. I'm not on this one.
Good morning, Matt.
Morning, Matt. Hope you're well. June. Yes, where is Matt? June. Good evening, everyone, from Robert Payne.
Hello, Robert.
We have.
It's like he's in the garden, doesn't he? With that avatar.
Very serious.
Does, yeah. He's at one with nature, aren't you, Robert? Not a naturist. He's definitely got a shirt on there. Mark the Illusions says ahoy to all Doctor Who fans, regardless of whether you're a Whovian or not. Good man, Mark.
True.
Good man. Oh, that's you there, Jack, in your Time Lord attire. Fabulous. Tardis Time says, in this one, this is a tough one. Work sucks at the moment. This is just what I need. I need you to help send me off to sleep.
That's a bit of a double-edged compliment.
Yeah.
You can go off people, Tardis Time. As long as you like the video and subscribe to the channel, I'll take that. It's fine. Cures for insomnia. We'll take that, won't we, Sarah? Cure for insomnia.
Well, you just like to think that actually we're just going to lull Tardis Time off to sleep, and it's all in the safe space, and it's all good then, isn't it?
That's true.
Yeah.
Ecky Thump, how is everyone? Says Tardis Time.
So Tardis Time is from up north then.
It sounds like it.
Wow, all these things about the old shows, Ecky Thump, what is it? Sailing the Century. We're going down the road. Aren't we? We're going down that road.
Michael, just waiting for us to come on. He's polished off half a packet of chocolate digestives.
Good man.
He's blaming the weather.
You blame anything you like, Michael. Half a packet of chocolate digestives is always good.
What? You're a degenerate, Michael. Go rethink your life.
Lives life on the edge, does Michael. Dangerous.
Especially with some tea. You dip your chocolate digestive in the tea. Awesome.
I think Michael should go for broke Ian and go for the whole packet in one night.
Yeah.
Be rude not to at this point.
Yeah, in for a penny, in for a pound. The Darren Zone says, hello there.
I'm loving his avatar.
Darren Zone's told me in my hair he's channeling a flock of seagulls. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go with that. I like that. Thank you.
His avatar's great, though. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, he's doing well, isn't he? Doing well.
Looks a real Doctor Who fan. That is what you call a Doctor Who fan.
It is. Simon. It's Thursday. It's Type 40 Live time. It is.
We're not live, are we? Tell me we're not live.
Apparently so.
Should have dressed up, Simon.
I would have.
Paul Flint says he's been giving Chris Chibnall a watch. Well,
never mind, Paul. It will get better. It will get better.
You can always call 999 or 111.
Somebody else said in the chat earlier on they've been watching Doctor Who. I can't remember who it was. I want to know, what were they watching? We need to know. I'm trying to find the comment now. Can't see. Somebody said
it should be lost now, Simon.
Yeah, watching Doctor Who. We need to know. What was it?
Yes, which story, which episode, if possible. Now, back to the model TARDIS we had on the screen earlier on. We have the rabbi from another planet. He's descended on us and says he still has that TARDIS with extra walls printed out to cover more of it. It's a fantastic toy with lights and sounds. Mate, that is a really good idea. When my kids were little, I thought about doing that as well, but I didn't have the requisite skills at the time to achieve it. So yeah, that's really impressive that you did that. I think we should, if you still got it, we'd like some pictures, please.
Yes.
Rabbi from another planet there.
Probably it all together, probably, didn't they?
Yes. And Side Matt Strike said it looks way cooler than my Daypole TARDIS console, which, Simon, you mentioned that earlier on.
Yeah, that was just so cool, that one. That was my favourite. They cost a fortune. Jackie was saying about how much your old one was worth. That Daypole one now goes for an absolute arm and a leg.
Oh, how much exactly?
Oh, a couple of hundred.
Yeah, I'd say £200 to £300. Yeah.
Arm and a leg.
Certainly. Capaldi's TARDIS would have been incredible as a toy. Suggests
Yes, it would.
Right.
That should happen.
Although, was it his TARDIS or was it Matt Smith's TARDIS?
Oh, it's Matt's. It started as Matt's.
Right,
yeah.
See, I know we have this conversation regularly, don't we? But I prefer, because with Capaldi, they added the bookcases and the books everywhere, and the laboratory table. They had a guitar sort of kicking around. Matt's was very sparse. Very sparse as I recorded. And the rabbi says the trick with the TARDIS playset is to never take it down when you set it up. And there speaks the voice of wisdom, and obviously a veteran dad, and he's got several kids as well. They probably grew up playing.
And I've just got to say, it's Paul Flint. Paul Flint has been watching Doctor Who today. Right, come on, Paul. What have you been watching?
Yeah, we need to know.
Yeah, you can't leave it. You can't have a statement like that amongst Doctor Who fans. We have to know.
Yeah. We have to be nosy.
Jason Finn asks, who else bought a Fez? So who here on the panel owns a Fez? That's what we need to know. Hands up.
Yes.
Oh.
No, not me. I'm kidding.
I don't own a Fez, no.
No, not a single Fez owner on the entire panel.
Me? I have.
Oh, you have?
You have, Dan?
No, Sarah.
No,
oh, you have. I thought Sarah has. I thought
Sarah
you said
has.
you had, Dan.
But it's an ugly hat, though, isn't it? It's ugly. Well, why would you?
And do you own a bow tie? Does that count?
Yeah.
I have a bow tie.
It's near enough, but you can't put it on your. I mean, the thing about the Fez for me is with the Fez, it looks to me as if it would. If you got caught out in the rain, not only is there no brim, Jack, to keep it off your face, but the Fez itself would soak in the rain and get heavier, and eventually you'd be walking around with this mass of water stuck to your head, and the circle. I bet people would have to sort of prise it off your head after a little while.
That's certainly an image that's in my head now.
Yeah.
Well, you just got in the rain with it. I mean, it's not designed for England, really, is it?
Well, it's because they're from Egypt. They're Egyptian.
Yeah, but hold on. So how does that help with the heat? Was that hat created for the heat or something?
No, it doesn't do anything with the heat. It's just cool. It's just
cool. It's ugly. The hat's ugly.
Welcome to our Doctor Who stream, everybody.
Exactly. And it's got that stupid thing that covers your face. If you flick it, it just goes on your face like that.
As always, we're asking the difficult questions here on Type 40 Live, your live stream Doctor Who magazine show. Yes, if you've got an answer to any of those questions, or you just want us to shut up, then just tweet at us, get in touch with us through Instagram and Twitter at Type 40 Doctor Who, or drop us some more comments. Thanks to everybody who's joined us in the comment section so far. We're going to try and keep the standard as high as that, the nonsense at 5th or maybe into 6th gear. If you hold up your end of the bargain, of course, and keep liking, sharing, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications about what's coming next. Lots to get into. Let's have some more fun in the TARDIS.
That was scary.
Time, isn't it? Yes, talking about fun and games, I think that's very much a theme we're going to keep returning to, is that the actors, the cast of Doctor Who, they are all over the globe at the moment. I think even though the weather's sort of changing, I think some of them are taking the opportunity to fly off to sunnier climes, to conventions and various other things. And they're bound to bump into one another here and there, like these two guys, two Scotsmen, big Doctor Who names, I suppose you could say. Sylvester McCoy and John Barrowman bumped into one another there. It looks like they're in an airport somewhere.
Is that John Barrowman? He looks like a pantomime Dave. I mean, he just literally does.
Is he not starring in something? Is he not starring in something new? I heard he's doing something, a new show or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I know he's doing some property development at the moment. He's obviously they're on their way to a convention there. So he's
you're right, Ian. Yeah, he's presenting something, but I can't.
Yeah, he is because
he was singing. I don't know.
Yeah, he dyed his hair back black, didn't he, for this new show or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, I know he's been on a health kick, and he's spoken a bit about his personal health, his mental health, and physical health, and he does look really, really well, and he's getting back out there. Good for him. And I'm not sure how well they're getting on, but it does seem like they're having a good time there. Sylvester McCoy playing up to the camera. Who'd have thought that, eh? Meanwhile, Doctor Who itself is out filming. So October the 3rd, we talked about this a few weeks ago. There are 3 night shoots booked for Doctor Who. Various cast members. I think there's one the other night. There's another one coming up in about 2 weeks' time. On October the 3rd, it was the second of the 3 night shoots. Millie was out on the first one a couple of weeks ago. We looked a little bit at that, but she was nowhere to be seen this time. Just our incoming Doctor, Mr. Ncuti Gatwa, he was out there, and he was sort of roaming around, really, Highland flinging himself around Cardiff in the small hours. He wasn't looking for a taxi. You hadn't had a long night at the Spoons or anything like that. He was out there filming Doctor Who, and it looks like Doctor Who with a Christmas theme too. And we've got a few pictures here because the people who never seem to rest, who always know what's going on with Doctor Who, no matter what time of day, where it is in the country, Jack, they were out in force taking lots of pictures. So have you seen all these latest pictures here that we've got from Doctor Who's filming? This is what's been going on this week. Where are we? Come on, my beauty. Start there. We are. So the TARDIS was there. Of course it was. That's how you know.
Yeah. No, I have seen some of these, yeah. And I actually nearly went to Cardiff that day. Yeah, because when I found out the filming was taking place, I was tempted. But by the time I got the train journey and all that, and obviously they were going till the early hours of the morning, and I would obviously have to get a hotel, I just thought, it's probably not worth it. But it looked incredible. It looked incredible from what I've seen. And I'm, looking forward to it.
Lots of Christmas decorations up. I can't believe, Charlotte, that this is material for the Christmas special that's going to air in like 12 weeks. This must be Christmas 2024.
Yeah, I can't think they'd cut it. I know there were stories in Russell's first run that he'd be a bit fine cutting episodes to air date, but I can't see them being that fine I think this is the next, not this Christmas, next Christmas is my feeling.
Actually, it might be this Christmas because they do cut it fine most of the time. TV shows, they really do. I mean, even films do as well. Like, 3 weeks before it's actually going to be released, they're still cutting it and shooting. So it might be.
This could be like pickups, Ian.
Yeah, I think it might be pickups. Maybe they've shot stuff and they've looked at the edit and they're thinking, well, we need. Because, they have in their contracts, they have, right, you shoot from here to here, but just in case, and they have that in the contract, only just in case something happens and they have to pick them up and stuff. So maybe we said, this is your contract, we have to do some pickups. Maybe that's.
I have to be honest, it does seem a long time in advance to be recording for Christmas 2024. Yeah. I think it's more like to maybe be pickups. Don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. We are talking about the same production team that filmed the stuff we're getting in 6 or 7 weeks a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, fair point. Yep.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Like, it is possible that this is for this Christmas. We'll see anyway. We'll see.
We shall see. The giant. Yeah, because the rest of this particular, the special that we're getting first in a few weeks' time, that was filmed late December into January, wasn't it? So to decide you all of a sudden need a few pickups 11 months later, 10, 11 months later, I think that's hard. Yeah, I think that's hard to imagine. But obviously, you're quite right. It's not impossible. I mean, I do love this image of the giant snowman, and the Doctor apparently punches his way out of that, which is quite cool, I think. And obviously, there's Ncuti Gatwa roaming around with his skirts in the breeze. I think we spoke a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago, Simon, about the Doctor himself wearing a kilt. Obviously, Jamie wore a kilt on screen, didn't he, for a couple of years? But the Doctor in a kilt, very fleetingly, I personally see. I haven't necessarily got a problem with it in principle, the Doctor wearing a kilt, but it's zaniness is the word that I used. A zaniness that I think the show could do without. Where do you stand on the kilt?
Well, like you, I have no problem with a kilt whatsoever. But it's just, unless I'm proven wrong, and I really hope I am proven wrong, I just really feel they've got this all wrong, simply because the Doctor just requires a recognizable outfit, and to put him into all these ridiculous, stupid outfits. I mean, if you're going to wear a kilt, you don't. Why have you got a yellow sleeveless gay top on underneath a leather jacket and jack boots, and it's just ridiculous. They're just going, it's gimmicky. It feels very, very gimmicky to me. All these different outfits feels gimmicky. And so for me personally, I still don't feel remotely like I'm looking at the Doctor. I feel like I'm looking at an actor in silly outfits. It just, and I'm praying I'm proven wrong, but it's not working for me. Sorry.
Somebody in the live chat a few weeks ago, Simon, likened it, said that the Doctor's the Doctor. The Doctor isn't Mr. Ben.
Yeah, but brilliant. A really good analogy. That's quite right. It's changing the character to me, the fundamental nature of the character, too much to have all these ridiculous costumes. To say it just feels like a gimmick. It feels cheap. It feels nasty. Just give him a costume. It's just. How are we meant to sort of feel any kind of through route with this character? How are we supposed to identify with this character if they're in something different every week? It's simply a different character. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that it's changing, to me, the fundamental nature of the character too much, and he's becoming a different character. Somebody just said in the chat, it's very Village People. It is. It all feels very Village People, very tacky, very. It's not.
But it's that top.
Yeah, are we going to get the Red Indian headdress next?
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah. Sorry, carry on, Charlotte.
But it's that top, because now obviously the last time we looked, it was from a distance and it was a stunt double, wasn't it? It wasn't actually beauty in the costume. And now we can proper see him fully close, like with proper, and that top is way too short.
Yeah.
To have with a kilt. It just is. It doesn't, like Simon was saying, it's that meshing of a kilt. You don't wear the top half with a kilt. You just don't. So it's just.
Well, the truth of it is, to me, Charlotte, I don't know about you, but it just doesn't look good. You can mix clothes up if you want to, but that just is a really awful look. The colours just don't work. The fabrics don't work. The styles don't work for me.
It does. It has got that sort of motif, hasn't it? It's the Village People, like you say, Simon. You know, I'm not blessed with the world's best gaydar, but it does look very, very gay, and that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're talking about another character. But this is Doctor Who. He's supposed to be a man who, a man out of time, and yet he's supposed to be someone who can sort of blend in, but he's not conspicuous until you get sort of close up next to him, and then you sort of notice that. Hang on, but that waistcoat is from 200 years ago, but he's wearing Converse. That kind of thing. It's not that guy looks a bit of a tit. It's a bit of a difference. But it's understandable, isn't it? The conversation focuses on the Doctor because this version of the character is one that we've yet to meet, Jack. And we're all desperate to get to know the next incarnation of the Doctor, aren't we? And in fairness, whilst what Simon is saying is absolutely right, if Shooter nails this characterization, in theory, it won't matter what he's wearing. That's a fair point, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll be honest. All the outfits that I've seen so far, personally, I don't mind them.
Yeah, okay.
I think
I like some.
Some are better than others, but I don't have a problem with any of them, including this one. But I do wish we'd have a signature look for the Doctor because with all the other incarnations we've had slight variations here and there. But when we think of, say, the 11th Doctor, we think of the bow tie and the tweed jacket and all that stuff. And same with Capaldi as well. And I just feel like that, if we're just having like loads of different outfits, it kind of reminds me of Tom Holland's Spider-Man a little bit, where there's so many different suits.
No, you're absolutely right. And this is something that annoys me a little bit about the MCU, Sarah, is that there's a different outfit for every movie, for every character to either. At first, I thought it was to sell action figures, but I don't know if action figures sell anymore. But now I think it's because they think the audience could get bored with the characters always looking the same.
Yeah, it's a weird one because
it's a really good spot.
The whole identity is, of that hero, that character wearing a particular outfit. So it's very strange. But the Tom Holland. That's a show for another time. Cause I hate how mechanical it was. It was like an Iron Man spider, so it wasn't. I prefer the other two, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. That's a proper Spidey suit. But anyway, I'm not feeling it. Like everyone's been saying, it's very mismatched, and it distracts from. What he's doing, because I'm just thinking, really, you're wearing that? I'm hoping there's going to be a really good explanation why, has he got to get dressed in a hurry? Is he trying to look like Ruby? I don't, because she was wearing something very similar, wasn't she?
Yes.
I don't know, but yeah, it does kind of take me out of it. But I'm very interested in the Christmas special. I mean, I'm so happy the Christmas specials are back, and to see the sets all lit up and the giant snowman. It just makes me think
I love
of
the snowman.
it just makes me think of the Santas and the.
Oh yeah, Sarah. When I was a little kid, my mother had got this album. It was the Phil Spector's Christmas album, so it was all Motown stuff. Yeah. And in this album, Charlotte, it was like a gatefold vinyl thing, and you got with it like an advent calendar or something like that, and a big Christmas poster of a Santa playing. I think he was playing a saxophone. But you also got, as part of this kit, an inflatable Santa that was really similar to the one. It wasn't anywhere near as large, but it was domestic. You could blow it up. It was made of plastic and put it in your home. And that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of this Phil Spector Christmas album. I think it's lovely. We've got a question here, which I think is a nice one to close off with. Where's the sporran? Where is the sporran? Yeah, is it? If you're
going to wear a kilt, you might as well go the full hog and have a sporran.
Yeah. You could put your Sonic. You could pop your Sonic in that, couldn't you? Your jelly babies. Maybe this doctor doesn't eat jelly babies. I suppose we'll have to wait and find out. But it's understandable that attention focuses on the doctor when Shooty's there and he's wearing something eye-catching again, isn't it? But others have noticed something else, because this was the location of the night shoot. Obviously, I don't know precisely where it is in Cardiff. No, Cardiff.
I know that building.
Yeah, we all know that one.
Go on, Sarah. So where, Sarah, have people seen this building before?
It's Henrik's, where Rose was working at the very start.
But didn't it get blown? Oh, okay.
It
did get blown.
Well, the windows got blown out.
Yeah, exactly.
18 years ago, I mean, we don't know. They could have had the insurance sorted even by now in Britain. Getting insured 18 years is probably right before you get your claim sorted. Yes, so you're right. Yeah, it's certainly the same building where the department store that Rose worked in was all those years ago. So, do you think then, Ian, that this could be a return to Henrik's there, or is this just a coincidence? It's just the same shop there.
I don't know. Maybe it's because they got permission to shoot on that street over there, and it was just easier for them to get to shoot over there again in the same street. I don't know. Or maybe it's part of the story. Who knows? Maybe Rose is in it. The real Rose, that is. Who knows? I don't know. So, but it's good guessing though, isn't it? So,
yeah. I agree. It's so this does evoke obviously certain memories of 2005 and seeing them out in contemporary Britain as well, on the streets, recognizable British, I suppose, iconography when you see buildings like this, aren't they? It's not futuristic, and it doesn't look bland either. Cardiff has a character all of its own, doesn't it, Simon? Have you been to Cardiff very often?
I've been to Cardiff a few times, done some work there as well. Got lucky enough to have a tour of the sets during the
of course you did.
The 50th anniversary filming. Saw the Tardis, saw Matt's Tardis before it was even public. So that was all good. But I've never actually found Henrik's. I have to be honest. I don't even know where it is. It's obviously on one of the high streets.
I've probably walked past it. That's the thing, because when you go to these places and you walk past them, you don't. Some of the locations are instantly recognisable, Jack, but others you don't know until somebody says afterwards, "Oh, that was this or that was that." Have you been to Cardiff many times? Have you been location hunting and things, Jack?
I haven't done location hunting myself, but I think it was for a Christmas present. My parents took me to the Doctor Experience when it was there. And I was lucky enough to get a tour of Peter Capaldi's Tardis as well, which was a really, really good time. And I haven't really been much since, but I do aim to do some location tour stuff, which I think would be really cool to see, because some of it is, as you said, very iconic. So.
Crimpling Doubloon speculates, is the Doctor going to defeat the bad guys by coming out in one daft outfit after another until they expire from laughing? Maybe. Mark the Illusions reminds us, Ian, that Romana wore a different outfit in every story as well.
Yeah, but that's the assistant, or you want to call a companion, correct, isn't it? You know what I mean? We're talking about the Doctor here, so.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Perhaps distraction is the idea, says Facebook user. F you haven't clicked the blue link. We don't know who you are.
He'll be known as Facebook user.
F you. Yeah.
F you.
And as Adam Charlton, he was on the show a couple of weeks ago when we were looking at the Who Spy pictures. The Who Spy stuff has just stopped, hasn't it, since the trailer came out?
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Why haven't they kept that going?
They probably will. They're probably just thinking that China's getting a lot of buzz, a lot of attention. Let's pause the Who's Spy, and then that can come back in a couple of weeks, I would guess.
Because Henrik's
Subwave network thing on Instagram, that suddenly came out of nowhere and it's just vanished.
Has that vanished as well? No, I wondered because obviously there's the Henrik's poster on here that Adam pointed out when he was last on the show. So is that just a coincidence? Is just this something that they think is a nice Easter egg for us to look at there, Charlotte? You know, it could be one of the two.
I think it could be Russell having fun. Like, he knows that we're going to recognise certain locations, especially, like you said, the Rose. That was our first introduction to the Doctor, so we're going to remember that scene very vividly. So he could be having fun, and it could be so many things with Russell. It could be something or nothing. I think it'd be nice, even if it's just like a passing thing of Shooty's Doctor going past, and maybe just having a double take and then moving on to sort of show he's recognised, but it's not taking up a load of story time. That's what I would honestly, if I'm being more fair about it, I'd prefer that than a whole big, oh look, it's Rose's workplace. It would be odd for it just to take up so much space.
Yeah. And Crimpling Doubloon says, surely Henrik's would have closed down by now and been converted into flats here. And is this something that you see happening a lot in London?
Yeah. Loads everywhere, in fact, everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere in the world, I think.
Flats we can't afford. There you go. So yeah.
Simon Ashley says, I agree with Jack. I prefer a Doctor Who has his own unique style of costume, like it was in classic Doctor Who.
Yeah. But wasn't it that thing when he first Russell T first started doing Doctor Who, and somebody said to him, "Oh, it's that guy in the costume." Do you remember that? Somebody said to Russell T. Remember, and then he decided, okay, well, if I'm going to have a Doctor, then basically he won't look like he's got a costume on, which Chris Eccleston didn't look like he had a costume, just looked like an ordinary bloke walking down the road, didn't he? So maybe he's taking that to he's gone from 5 to up to 10 now. Maybe he's belted it up to 10, and Susie's going to wear something different in every episode. Maybe that's his thing. I don't know.
I think that's apparent. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
Eastlyn Burkholder asks, isn't Cardiff a real big place? I come from northeast of New Orleans, Louisiana. Is Cardiff a capital? Cardiff is the capital of Wales, but it's not that big, really, is it, Sarah?
No. Not as big as Memphis.
No.
It has got a cool castle.
Yeah, it has.
Considering it's a capital city, there are towns certainly in England that are bigger than Cardiff as a city. It's a very beautiful place. It's no slight on Cardiff at all. I really like Cardiff.
It's got a nice castle, or castle, as Simon would say. There you go.
Yeah, I'm not posh like you.
And Carol Jude said, nothing is a coincidence with this show. If you recognise something, it's intentional, even if it's just, hey, look at that thing. And you could be right. Even though it's all new Doctor Who that we're looking forward to, there is such a... There's an aroma of the back to basics about it, and they're deliberately reaching for those associations, touching the grass, I suppose, that is the lawn of Doctor Who, and trying to chime and reconnect with the thing that made us and the general public love it when it first came back all those years ago. So it's as good a way as any, I think. But when it comes to Doctor Who legends over the last over the life of new Doctor Who, some of them they depart more willingly than others, and some roles are more sought out after than others. The role of the Master is almost as important and as much of a yardstick of the times, I think, as the Doctor is. Because the nature of villainy changes, doesn't it? And what we associate, I suppose, now with a more sort of pantomime-esque quality, that kind of went out of fashion. But I think sometimes we actually hanker for that kind of overt evil. For example, with James Bond movies, everybody wanted James Bond movies to go very, very serious because the Bourne Identity films were really, really serious at the time. And now we're several years on, people kind of want the camp James Bond back. I think it's very similar with the Master. Sometimes you want a character that's got a bit more depth. Other times you want somebody who's going to cackle and really chew the scenery. The latest person to take on that role, I think, definitely falls into the latter bracket, Charlotte. That was Sacha Dhawan. We last saw... Now, I think this actor, I think he's a fantastic actor. Listen, if you remember, he was my pick for the 13th Doctor several years ago now. Obviously, he ended up playing the Master in the same incarnation of the show. And he didn't exactly reinvent the wheel. I think it's fair to say he gave us quite a standard take on the Master by New Who standards, Charlotte.
Yeah, Sacha, God love him. I think it took a while, but he eventually got there with his Master, because to begin with, he was just incredibly cartoonish, incredibly cackling, incredibly in your face, sort of, I'm evil, look at me type of Master. And then eventually, by that shot when he was in Jodie's last episode, I felt like they actually toned him down a bit, and it worked because he was a lot more conniving. He was a lot more scary. And that's what I think Sacha was always good at doing. He just wasn't being allowed to do it. So I think he eventually got there. But my sort of thing with New Who now is I'm fed up of how they have treated the Master. I think we've had too many of that insane variant. I think they've all had that too much, and we need to go back to more classic. I want a Delgado now. I really want that type of Master. I think it's due, and I really hope if we get another one, that's the way Russell goes with it.
Yeah, I completely echo that, Charlotte. Yeah, it started with John Sim. And I hated his over the top and the insanity, but I loved him in the last Peter Capaldi two-parter where he toned it down and he was chilling and cold and calculating. He worked really well alongside Missy, and Missy was fantastic, but again, she still had the insanity. And Sacha, it was just too much. It looked amazing. I loved that purple outfit we first seen him. That is very doctorish. But yeah, his best performance was in Power of the Doctor, I've got to say.
Well, he practically led that special, didn't he? Let's face it.
He did,
I know we reviewed it
he
extensively.
Carried it, really, didn't he? Between him and
if it wasn't for him.
It was his story. Let's be fair, it wasn't a Doctor story, it was a Master story.
Well, between him and Sophie Aldred, they were the leads of that special, realistically, and everybody else, including Miss Whittaker, was left around the outside. But in light of that, I felt that he was given a nice final shout there, and even though the material could have been better, it looked like he was having a lot of fun, and he got to show his range. I think Sacha Dhawan is basically the only actor who managed to come out of that entire car crash with any credibility whatsoever. And given the fact it's such a narrow escape, Simon, I was quite surprised. I was quite surprised just a few days ago to see this interview with the Radio Times that he's given, where he's sort of thrown his hat back into the ring and he's angling for a bit of a comeback. So here's what Sacha had to say about this to the Radio Times just a couple of days ago.
If I was to maybe get asked to come back, I think I'd inject a new kind of lease of life into it, now having had a break from it. So, he said never say never. So we'll see. You make a decision like, oh no, I'm finished, and then you get major FOMO, and you're like, well, I want to get back into the party again.
So, are you surprised to hear him say that, Simon, or you think actor wants work shouldn't be a surprise?
No, of course I'm not surprised to hear him say it. He'll take it. Of course he wants work, and quite rightly too. Any actor does. God, blimey! I mean, I pray this doesn't happen. I made no bones about this. I am not a fan of this Master at all. It was just way too over the top for me. I think I'm the only one here then that thought it got worse as his time went on. And by power of the Doctor, he was just.
No, you're not.
He was a complete utter pantomime villain. Literally, you know, we've accused Doctor Who before now of being sort of pantomime-esque. And this was the, you know, people dared to sort of say Anthony Ainley was a pantomime villain. Well, Mike, he wasn't even in the same town, let alone in the same panto. This was just 100% dialed up to 1,000,000. I just thought it was awful. I thought it was ghastly. I thought it was excruciating. It was uncomfortable to watch for me. It was just like so forced. So you know, for goodness sakes, just calm down, mate. No, sorry, really, really. I'm praying. I'm sorry, Sasha. I'm praying you don't come back, mate. Sorry. I agree with Charlotte. We need a cold, steely, unemotional, absolute, for want of a less rude word, bastard of a master who just goes straight down the line and forgets all this histrionics and no, just be mean and that's it. Just be cool.
We need a master that feels like a predator. Again, that feels like you've got that shiver when you see them on screen. Like Derek Jacobi had that for the 2 or 3 minutes.
You're so right, Charlotte.
Because he's a good actor, that's why.
Well, but it wasn't just that, Ian. He was written cruelly. He was written
for three minutes.
He was, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It was the actor as well.
You're right.
Oh, it's the actor as well.
It's because it was those few scenes were really, really well written, and the performance was beautifully considered, every single word. And so we actually get more of an idea of who he is and what he's capable of, and you get that shiver right away. And poor Sasha, who I really rate him as an actor, and I still do, he was given considerably more material and more screen time, Jack, and yet he's still got this sort of cartoonish vibe, and I don't mind that kind of villainy at all. I kind of like it in Eric Roberts, but I get very frustrated by this. But watching that video, though, Jack, and hearing Sasha there with a big smile on his face, he clearly loves the part. He does a lot of fan events. He was out there at Long Island Who, for example, just a couple of months ago. And part of me, I do agree with what Simon says, but part of me, my response is this guy does kind of deserve better. And if anybody could perhaps have a second bite of that apple and do something different with it, perhaps it could be him. So where do you sit with this? Should Sasha be given maybe a second chance?
I mean, I wouldn't be, against Sasha returning because I did really enjoy his performance. Yes, I do think he was very over the top in some cases. I mean, there was that dialogue from a certain Series 12 episode where he says, I'm going to roll out the red carpet because it's bathed in the blood of our people, which I thought was like,
awful. Yeah,
you couldn't give that to Laurence Olivier to deliver.
No,
which, very corny dialogue, but. Obviously, when it came to the power of the Doctor, I do think that was like the best performance he ever gave for me personally. I thought it was really cool. And I do think he does have the potential because I've seen him in other stuff. I think he's a tremendous actor. I do think he could play the calm and collective villain. But if they don't bring him back as the Master and the Master does return whenever, there is one name I'd like to throw into the ring. Charles Dance.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
he's no spring chicken, is he, Charles Dance? But he's still very capable of making you shiver, isn't he?
Certainly. And from what you've all said as well about going back to like the classic style of the Master, a bit more calm, a little bit more calculated, and obviously shown a little bit more intelligence as well with the character. They don't have to go, if you pardon the French, batshit crazy. They just have to, kind of be always one step ahead of the Doctor, and instead of going down the whole, are they actually good? All of that redemption stuff, I'm not really a fan of that. I just want this Master to be pure evil. I think that's probably the best way to go.
Do you know what else I think would help with all of this? And this will never ever happen, sadly. And that's for it to go to an actor who is not particularly big on social media, doesn't do a lot of interviews. Because again, if you think back to Delgado and Ainley, you never, ever, ever, and I know we're talking a different time and a different era, I get that. But my point being that you never saw interviews with those people. And there's Sacha Dhawan sitting in his front room saying, oh yeah, I'd love to be in Doctor Who again. It's difficult in a way then to relate to those people and certainly do the kind of thing that you're talking about, Charlotte and Jack, where you've got that single-minded, steely determination. Because you know what they are as an actor. They're great and it's all brilliant and I love it all and I love you. How can you then turn that into an absolute steely Master? It's virtually impossible to do. You need somebody that just never appears, particularly in public. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, and I think also it's an age thing, because if you look at how we've had the Master in Modern Who, they've all been young.
Yeah.
They've all sort of been the 20, 30 age
Apart from
bracket to
Derek
look at them.
Jacobi.
Maybe they're older than that, actually, in real life. And because we've had young doctors, you can tell that they were very much that mindset. We've got a young doctor, we need a young master to match almost. And no, I actually would love to have a young actor against an older.
I mean, interestingly, Charlotte, I always think that the best master we never ever had was Anthony Stewart Head, because in School Reunion, he is the master. That's how I want the master to appear. Now that's, you were saying about we want somebody that puts the willies up you and terrifies you. He nails it in that one scene around the swimming pool. He absolutely nails it. That's the master for me. That's what I want. Just reading the live chat here across YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble, I can see that it's really divided on Sacha Dhawan in particular. There are some people who really loved what he did, and other people just want. I'm not sure if it's even anything personal. Just want him gone, partly because of the association with the failure, with the great failed experiment.
Yeah.
And
I can understand that too. I can see why people would respond in that way, Sarah.
And I think
it's unfortunate, because I don't think a lot of actors and people that have been involved with this experiment have been tarnished, and it's not really their fault.
I don't think it's his fault, really. I think it's the writing. He had to obviously go with what was written. And obviously Chibnall didn't know where to take the master, so he just copied Russell T's version of the master and just dialed it up to 10. Yeah. And so poor old Sacha, he had to deal with this really awful script, and he had to act accordingly. So it's not really his fault. But to tell you the truth, I wouldn't want him to come back. I want to see new people play different characters in this new version.
I don't want the master back for a very long time, because it's been exhausting, because we had Missy for 3 years.
Yeah.
Then John Sim popped back up. And then
shot himself in the back.
3 years. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Give it a rest.
Glenn Piper's just said exactly that in the chat. We need a break, and I would agree. We need a break from the Daleks and the Cybermen. Personally, I would agree from all of them.
I do like the Cybermen. I want them to come back with that helmet. With the helmet, me and Simon likes. Cool. I wanted to come back.
There's no different story. But I want to see no monsters.
Yeah, so do I. I. Definitely.
But do you know what I think they could do? I think the problem is the master's been like the stereotypical series villain so much now that you can guarantee a New Who Doctor Who finale, you're going to have a master in there somewhere. It'd be nice just to have like one story with a new master, and then you don't see him for like the rest of the series and even the special, and then maybe near the end of the next series, maybe then he pops up again.
Well, the problem with that is he's trying to keep the actor engaged in.
Yes, that is the problem.
So if you have him appear once, the actor's not going to, bollocks to this. Do you know what I mean? I'm only going to appear once. Why would I come back? Do you know what I mean? Or he might get offered work and he can't come back. So that's the problem with that idea. It's hard. It's hard running a TV show, especially with characters that people are used to and want to see come back. I don't envy Russell T for bringing back Doctor Who. Tell you the truth, So he's got a fight ahead of him, isn't he, to win the audience back? Put it that way. So
it seems to me, from looking at the live chat and speaking to you guys, that some Doctor Who mainstays, cornerstones, are, for the time being, perhaps a spent force. And whilst I do feel for Sacha Dhawan, and I note that he has had no trouble really in picking up work. A couple of people in the live chat have mentioned the show Wolf that he's been on lately, and how good he was in that. I'm sure he's got other things lined up. He does seem like a very happy guy. And I do like that he responds in the way that he does to Doctor Who, and that he's happy to be associated with it and go to the events and things like that. But I think for the time being, perhaps it is, we should draw a line under that for several reasons, not just the great failure. And maybe he'll come back in time. I don't know. There's not much call for the villains to come back in the same way. It was until recently, it was quite unprecedented.
Do you know what? If they do bring back the Master, I would really like him to have his little moustache back on. You know what I mean? The way he looked before, and with his hair slicked back, and looking evil.
Go the full works, full on pants out. Obviously, when you've got actors, well, anybody who's been involved in it who loves the show as much as we do, or seems to, and wants to carry on being associated with it, it's the truth of the matter can sometimes be quite harsh. But I respect Sacha Dhawan's take on it there and his want to return. But I think I have to agree with people. Generally, the mood is that perhaps it's best that it's left alone. And I think if he loves Doctor Who and wants the best for it, he'd probably find it in his heart to agree. I think he does know that it's got to move on. Because he loves Doctor Who. I think it's safe to say that he does, just as we do here. It's the love of Doctor Who that's brought us all together here at Type 40 and Type 40 Live, together with you guys in the live chat watching on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble. Keep those comments coming. We want to hear your views about everything that's coming up. Don't forget the Type 40 podcast. That's up on the podcatcher of your choice and at our home feed, type40.podbean.com. Recent episodes have included deep dive reviews, a Doctor Who podcast day special, our chat with Philip Roy, the man who is attempting to bring back the 60s and 70s feel of Doctor Who in a brand new fan film. And just the other day, we dropped this episode. It's our deep dive review of Father's Day, the 2005 classic. Myself, Sarah, and that great character, Stephen Noonan. We all got together to talk our way through that episode and to celebrate the 9th Doctor 2 and share our memories of Henrik's and everything else from all the way back in 2005. So get that in your life, get it in your ears, and get back here to let us know what you think of it all here in the comments section on Type 40 Live. What's coming up next? Let's take a look.
Jaffa cakes. That's what's coming up next.
The world needs more Jaffa cakes.
How many chocolate digestives are left?
They could end up repeating on you if you wolf them down too quickly, Ian. You make your way. Hey, what's your shortest time of getting through a packet of Jaffa cakes then, mate? What do you reckon you could do?
Less than 5 minutes, I reckon.
Well, that's definitely going to come back to haunt you, because what goes around comes around, and that's definitely the case with Doctor Who too. Often we just can't keep track of it all, Ian, whether it's going in one direction or the other. So maybe we need a personal organizer, or perhaps a diary, a simple diary, a leather-bound, gold-tipped diary. We do have one of those, and fortunately for us, ours is dimensionally transcendental. And the fearless Simon Horton, he's well stocked with those little coloured post-it notes, aren't you? To tab all the little bits, all the items of interest, to catalogue it, and to bring it all back to us, and entrance us with all these tales of Doctor Who past. How's that sound?
I'm done.
Wait one, before you start, right?
I was just going to say I haven't done one this week. I'm kidding. Go on, Ian.
Simon, before you start, right, you have to get a diary that looks like that picture. That Dan. Oh, he's got one, have you? Have you got one?
I need one. You're quite right. I do need one. I can hold it up like that.
Here's the diary.
Yeah.
I can read from it then, instead of reading off my little notes that I've got down the side of the screen. That would be cool.
We're going to have to find one, aren't we? But until we do, Simon, what's in the virtual diary for this week?
Well, actually, we've got a bit of a different diary this week, because this week we're not going to be talking about any episodes at all. But just as a quick to whet your appetite to things you're not going to hear about, 55 years ago today, you would have been watching episode 4 of The Mind Robber. 55 years ago today. Wow. 35 years ago today, listen to this one. 35 years ago today, you would have been watching Remembrance of the Daleks Part 1.
Amazing.
You remember that opening sequence with the spaceship going over the top? It was so cool. We're not talking about any of those things, I'm afraid. For new Who fans, I've just got to say this, for new Who fans, this week in years gone by, 3 episodes that for me pretty much hit the slurry at the very bottom of the barrel and have a bit of a stir around. And in 2014, this week, you'd have been watching Kill the Moon. Can you believe it?
Oh, do you know? I don't mind that. There's worse.
Everyone.
That was the point I really lost it. The year later, in 2015, this week, you would have been watching Under the Lake, which I can't remember a thing about.
I didn't like it. I didn't feel that one either. I'm with you there, Simon.
But our favourite one from this week that we're not talking about in 2018, this week you would have been watching The Woman Who Fell to Earth. What a shame we don't have time to talk about that.
You know what, Simon? I have to relive that every single time because those red cranes are about 20 minutes from my house. So every time I go on that road, I'm like...
You live the horror. You relive the horror.
They're still there after 5 years. They haven't finished building whatever they're building.
They're there all the time.
They'll never stop building it. They'll never. Peter Harrington, but don't worry, there's no mention of Bannermen. Bannermen was not on this week in years gone by. But I'll tell you something that was on in this week in years gone by, and that was The Invisible Enemy, episode 2, which means that this week we celebrate the anniversary of K9. I've just got to work this out because we are celebrating bear with me, how many years is it? It is 46 years exactly.
Ouch.
This week that little chappie trundled onto our screens, and I don't know about anybody else, but I fell in love with him straight away.
Is it love at first sight, mate?
Oh, it was for me. I just loved K9. I don't know why. I just loved this little chap the minute he appeared on screen. And as I say, it was in episode 2. Because remember, it's not in episode 1. So episode 2, as I say, screens this week in 1977. And so this is, as I say, 46th anniversary of Little K9. Created, of course, by Bob Baker and Dave Martin, the late, great Bob Baker and Dave Martin. Bob, of course, came on the show a few years ago. Bless him. And the thing that I always want to point out with K9 is that he predates R2-D2. K9 got so much stick for copying R2-D2, and he predates him. They were filming, they were recording rather, The Invisible Enemy the month before Star Wars was even released. And so the pre-production on The Invisible Enemy was 6 months before that. And so R2-D2 was barely on the horizon at that point. So no, K9 is his own dog, and we should respect that. It's interesting, Dan, actually, you've got that photo on screen there with little K9 showing his monitor on the left-hand side. Because, The Invisible Enemy, oddly, is the only story in which we ever see anything on that little monitor.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, for some bizarre reason, they never, ever use that monitor again, which is rather strange. But there we go. So it's good that you've got that photo up. And, of course, K9 started with an electronic voice effect on John Leeson's voice, and gradually over the time it just got less and less, and of course he now does it without any electronic modification at all. But back in those days it was his voice was modulated similar to the Daleks, and of course he had a very, very, very noisy motor back in those days as well. But I've always wondered,
when you say a motor, do you mean that was working all of his various innards?
Yeah. Well, mainly the motive unit that was driving him along, bless him, because that's why he's just, every time he moves, he's just so noisy. The ears, you're right, Ian, those little ears. It was all so noisy. But of course, the thing to bear in mind is that he was never intended as a companion. He was only ever built for the one story. And it was only towards the end that they sort of decided that, let's keep him on. And I've often wondered, there's this myth going around that they filmed sort of 2 endings, one with him going into the TARDIS, one with him not. I've never actually managed to get to the bottom of whether they did actually produce 2 endings for The Invisible Enemy.
No, I don't know either.
Is it just a myth that goes round? I don't know.
K9 was, sincerely, he was one of the icons of popular entertainment in the late 70s, wasn't he? In Great Britain, certainly. He was very, very, very quirky, and he was used a lot in everything from cartoons to sketch shows. He became a kind of everybody knew who K9 was, didn't they?
Everybody knew K9. Do you remember he appeared on the Generation game? He did something with
Barbara Woodhouse.
Barbara Woodhouse, that's the name I was looking for. Thank you, Dan. He was on everything. Everybody knew K9.
When you look back, though, Simon, at the time when we were children, I was very, very young. but it seemed like he was on the show for a really long time, and it was only like 3 years, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And people still talk about him now. He's stayed with the show. He's still associated with the show.
Yeah, and oddly, when you look at those stories, he actually does very little in them. Most of the time, he stays in the TARDIS. Occasionally, he gets the doctor blows his whistle and he pops out. Oh, Jack, there we go.
Oh, I forgot Jack was a massive K9 fan. Let's get that up on screen there.
Which one is that, Jack?
That's the radio-controlled one. I think it was originally released after school reunion, I think.
Yeah, that's the big one, isn't it? It's got the little panel on the side that pops off, has it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
And then I've got a little mini one as well.
Hey!
That's beautiful.
And then the most random combo one I've got is the pack with Rose and K9. Which
the little dinky one.
Yeah.
Very odd.
Dinky one. I want to know where's the second one from. Let's see the second one again with these little red eyes. That one's beautiful.
I don't know where this one came from. I know my mom got it me for Christmas, so
that's fantastic. So Jack, come on then. Burning question: Do you like K9?
Do I like K9? I love K9. I love K9.
So when did you start watching K9? Did you come across K9 first in, for example, School Reunion, and then go back and watch his other stuff, or what?
Yeah. So I first discovered K9 from School Reunion, and then it was that year because my mom grew up watching Doctor Who around that time as well, and she was a massive K9 fan as well. So she got me some of the classic DVDs that were available back then.
Yeah.
And I just started watching them. I was like, I bloody love this dog. And then the Sarah Jane Adventures happened. And then got to see more of K9.
We do need more K9. I really wish to bring back K9.
Well, there's no excuse now because technology is such that they can actually make him work better and move better and stuff like that. So there's really no excuse. In those days, they couldn't make the thing work too well, could they?
And it's the design as well. I mean, look at that design. It's just it's the same as the Daleks. It's the same as a Coke bottle. It is just a beautiful design. It doesn't get any better than that.
We've made several shows, haven't we, about K9 over the years. We've been doing Type 40 podcasts and live streams. We did have the late Bob Baker on as well. We're very privileged to have both Bob and Paul Tams on to talk at length about their involvement with the character and the various generations and regenerations of that character and that icon. But every now and again, I think it's good for the soul just to touch base again with K9 Simon, because there's something fundamental about him.
And whenever he vaguely appeared in the Sarah Jane Adventures, I was always just thinking, no, I need him in the whole episode. I want him throughout the Sarah Jane. I didn't want Mr. Smith. That was an awful computer. I wanted K9. And
they never give us what we want, do they, Simon?
They never do. That scene, I've spoken about this before, but that scene at the end of School Reunion, when the TARDIS, when we think K9's been destroyed and the TARDIS dematerializes and there's a brand spanking new K9 trundling along to us, I was in floods of tears. It still brings me to tears now. It was so emotional because although I knew K9 was not coming back in the show, to just think that in another world, Sarah did have K9 back and they literally trundled off into the sunset together. My God, that's Doctor Who for me. Thank you very much. You can leave the rest. I'll keep that. It's just beautiful. Beautiful.
We've got an answer. Yeah. We've got an answer to your question earlier on that Will Hadcroft is in the live chat. Hi, Will. And he says they did. So that the two endings, apparently it's an extra on the DVD set where K9 does stay with Marius. So I must have seen.
So it really is true. So obviously at some point, who knows when, maybe during the broadcast. No, it can't have been during the broadcast of Invisible Enemy because by then they'd made the subsequent stories. So it must have been quite quickly that they decided.
We've got people in the live chat who've made their own 3D printed their own K9, Jack. It's very impressive. And Wendy here says she's got a few K9s dotted around her place too. Always lovely to see our K9. This is the wealth of love for the character, Charlotte. It never goes away, does it? And he hasn't been on screen now again for donkey's years.
No, but it's that thing of obviously if you're a dog lover, if you've got pets, it doesn't matter he's a robot, he's a dog. You've still got that same reaction. And I think it's also the voice. That's what I remember just falling in love with in that first episode. Because he's a bit like sarcastic, which is what I love.
Yes.
And like he can have a bit of attitude, which I just think, but he's so sweet sounding. And like,
well, again, he's similar in character actually to C-3PO, but again, he predates C-3PO as well.
Yeah, well, C-3PO was very different, wasn't he? He was very much it was very much the servant, wasn't he? C-3PO, but K9 had a bit of pep to him. You know what I mean? He was very brave.
Wasn't he?
Yeah.
He had a personality. I think that's what was
not only that,
about him.
But when you heard that zzz, and his little nose extended, you knew that shit was about
you were
to
in
get
trouble.
real.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Even though he's aiming at the floor, at the target.
You can't have everything here. These are the sort of things we pretend not to notice, aren't they? Robert Payne says he saw a full-size K9 at an air show a few years ago, and there's lots of lovely little stories in the live chat too about K9, about which versions people prefer, which they don't, which ones they accept, and which they don't. And I love Carol Jude's comment: "How many dog years does that make K9?"
I can tell you, 322, Carol. 322 dog years K9's been around for.
But is it because the reason why he didn't come back, Dan, was because the rights was owned by those people and they'd have to negotiate to get K9 back? Is that what it is?
Sort of. Well,
because I don't
Bob
see why they couldn't bring him back.
Words,
how many times did they bring back the Daleks? I mean, and that was owned by.
It's because
that was a long-term arrangement with the estate of Terry Nation, whereas the negotiations between the BBC and Bob and Paul at K9 Official, I gather, were they never wanted to use him permanently. From what I remember, from what those gentlemen said when they came on the show, they would have been quite happy. I don't want to speak for them, but from what I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, if you're out there watching, they were very actually keen for K9 to be involved as long as the BBC wanted him. But they only ever wanted to negotiate on an appearance by appearance basis for their own purposes, I suppose. They probably not. I wouldn't say that Paul and Bob were privy to why the BBC wanted that.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't have to go through the BBC now, though, would it? It would go through Bad Wolf.
Don't know.
But it's the same thing. It's the same thing in principle, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
so,
they're still going to have to negotiate and come to some sort of agreement.
But I mean, he's an iconic character. I don't see why they want to bring him down. And because of technology now, they wouldn't have so much trouble with him. Do you know what I mean? And where he needs to be CGI, they'll do a CGI version of him. This doesn't seem to be a problem here. I don't know.
But I can see, honestly, he's their creation, and I think I obviously don't want to speak for them either, but I can't help but imagine they would, if K9's in a story, they would want it to be a good story. They'd want it to actually have a proper use, actually add something to the story, not just be for about 10 minutes K9's going to be in it, and then we're not going to see him again.
You're absolutely right. They brought back other people. Why can't they bring back K9? K9 is as big a character as any of the companions, seriously. So why don't they bring him back? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's a protectiveness. There's a wanting for
on the
K9
part of the creators.
Well, they should write a story,
creators,
especially for K9, maybe a two-parter where K9 appears.
Wouldn't that be fantastic?
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Really
and he's
cool.
he's a major player in that story.
I want a K9 Christmas special where he has tinsel around his neck. If you're watching, Russell, write that down.
I still love K9 and Company, and I still have to watch it every Christmas. It's just, I love K9.
I can't believe that we've seen the last of K9. He's bound to come back sooner or later.
Well, I was just going to say, Stephen Moffat did say, I think it was in his exit interview that he did on, was it the Doctor Who fan show? He did say he originally planned for K9 to have a cameo in Last Christmas, I think.
Okay.
But I'm guessing, again,
the negotiations fell down.
Yeah, I'm guessing that might have been it or something.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, happy 46th birthday or 322nd birthday in dog years to K9, and I, that was my golden moment of Doctor Who when K9 first appeared on screen, and wow, I still love the little blighter. Anyway, moving on. Also in the diary this week. This is another first. This is this week in the diary because we go back 40 years ago, and this is going to make certain people of a certain age go very, very misty-eyed. This one. Exactly 40 years ago was the first ever home video release of Doctor Who with Revenge of the Cybermen back in October 1983.
I had it.
So did I.
Yeah.
So did I.
I chucked it in the bin though when DVD started coming out. I don't know.
Of
I
course
should have
you
kept
did.
it.
But the excitement of getting that first one, and that's for anybody that's intrigued, that is the actual first release cover. So that was when it was first released in October of 1983. It cost an eye-watering $39.99.
What?
That original release. Incredibly. It was also released on Betamax, Laserdisc, and Philips Video 2000. Jack is going to be sitting there thinking, what's Betamax? What's Video 2000?
I had it on Betamax and VHS. But
there you go. There you go.
So it's crazy.
And that's an original release. That it was a beautiful card cover, so it looked like a box. Like a book. That's how it appeared on your shelf. It was like a book. I'm afraid so, Peter Harrington, 40 years ago. And the reason Revenge of the Cybermen came about, that this was the very first tranche of videos that the BBC ever released on home video. And the reason Revenge of the Cybermen in particular came about was because the BBC held at Longleat in April 1983, they were giving, and I can remember this, they were giving out a little form that you had to fill in to say what was the favourite story that you would want on video to be released on home video. And everybody pretty much put either Genesis of the Daleks or the Tomb of the Cybermen. Genesis of the Daleks, I think at the time they couldn't get purely again because, as we've said already,
Daleks.
Complicated contractual arrangements with the estate of Terry Nation. Terry Nation was still alive at that point, so it would have been with him. And so they couldn't release Genesis of the Daleks. They couldn't release Tomb of the Cybermen because it didn't exist anymore. So they thought, Revenge of the Cybermen, it's a cross between Genesis of the Daleks because it's got Tom Baker in, and Tomb of the Cybermen because it's got they'll love that. Yeah. And of course, it's not the best story to release first, but that was the first one that was released. As I say, for just shy of £40.
Did it do well?
They all did really, really well. These did really well
because I remember when films or even TV shows was released on VHS. Yeah, they used to cost 40.
Oh, they were a fortune. So the films were like 60, 70 quid.
70, yeah. Enter the Dragon. When I brought Enter the Dragon, that was 78 quid.
Just crazy.
Yeah, I can remember all those prices. They're very, very hefty. We've got this article up on screen here. This is from I think this was from the Telegraph. And it says, this is from the electronics correspondent, Simon, back in the day, Doctor Who, Reginald Perrin and the Two Ronnies are among the characters who will relaunch the BBC into the home video market in the wake of an 18-month contract agreement between the corporation and the unions representing actors, writers and musicians. So this needed a lot of negotiation just to release...
Well, of course, because previously all the programs that had been made for broadcast only, and that was it. Yeah. And suddenly we're talking about releasing them all, and you've got to get everybody that took part either in front of or behind the cameras to contractually agree to allow them to release it. It was hugely complicated in those days because nobody had agreed to it.
And I suppose even though in this article they say, they've done their research, BBC research says 85% of video cassettes used in the home are rented, 4 million transactions a week, a net market here, a cassette market worth about 400 million a year. And they released, so they put out the best of the Two Ronnies, Butterflies, the old sitcom with Wendy Craig in it, The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin, and Doctor Who, Revenge of the Cybermen. So there's a good splattering there of some of the greatest hits in recent years to make up the Video Tasties Wave 1.
Yes, except I can remember the listing going out, and it did, as it says in the article, it incorrectly listed it as Revenge of the Cyberman. And I remember as a 15-year-old kid being really knocked immediately. I was a geek, for God's sake. They've got the name wrong. I remember being so miffed. And that was the listing, as I recall. Yeah, those are the old adverts that
was
was
that cover? Is that the stars from the Peter Davison? It is, isn't it?
It's all completely and utterly wrong. You've got a Doctor from the wrong story, era even, wrong logo, wrong Cybermen, because those are the Earthshock Cybermen, and the wrong title sequence. Everything on it is incorrect. But of course, they were riding on the strength of Earthshock that had only been screened about 6 months before then.
That's a very interesting way of describing the female assistants, isn't it?
New man. I didn't even notice that. Well done, Sarah.
Just in case Jack doesn't know what a VHS is. This is a VHS, right?
Thank you for showing me.
That's what it looks like. Raiders of the Lost Ark. I've still got my VHS.
Wow.
I've still got some VHSs.
I've got my Doctor Who ones. I haven't got this edition of Revenge of the Cybermen, but I have got every single of the main releases.
I certainly understand why my mum and dad were so mad when me and my brother broke the VHS player. We put toast in it.
Oh my god.
Brilliant.
And then tried to get it out with a fork.
It was never going to end well, was it? And they used those video recorders cost an arm and a leg. And that BBC Video logo in the bottom of that image that you just had up there, that BBC Video logo, I remember that so well. It was really, it was so 80s. It was all multicolored with a twinkly. I think it was Peter Howell actually that did the jingle that went with it. This really cheesy, tacky jingle that went with the video logo.
It did. It sounded like the startup music at a peep show, didn't it? It was really, really iffy. Yeah,
it was.
They really want us to work for it tonight. Here, work for the likes.
Oh,
we've had cat years now. Raymond Williams wants us to work out what 40 quid is in today's money. I'm terrible enough with money as it is, so I couldn't possibly tell.
I can tell you.
200 quid.
It's what? Sorry.
It's about 200 quid, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It is about 200 quid. In today's money, it's about 200 quid.
Yeah.
In today's money. 150 maybe.
Crazy.
Crazy bygone age. And of course, eventually videos became a part of everybody's lives, didn't they? And the sell-through market, it developed quite a lot in a few years' time. But this initial release, Simon, it must have been like gold dust to people who got 40 quid.
I just remember being so ridiculously excited by this, because what you've got to remember at this point is that we never ever thought we would see these stories on television, let alone be able to own them and have them in your own home to watch as many times as you want to. And my giddy aunt, did I watch Revenge of the Cybermen over and over and
over. Do you know what?
Over again.
Simon, do you know what, right? When it was released, the only place I could get it was WH Smith's. I would go there every week and they would say, we haven't got it. And then one week they had it. And I was so happy when I got hold of that plastic VHS coming home with it and stuff like that.
It was ridiculously exciting.
Yeah.
We've got an answer here from Megan, who says, Megan Tremthick says £40 VHS release is the equivalent of £115 in today's money. So thank you for that one, Megan.
And I remember I did get it for my birthday in April of 1984. I had to wait that long for it, dear. I had to wait till April. It was released in the October. I had to wait till the April for my birthday. And I did get it. And that was just the best birthday of my entire life. I just remember the thrill of just putting that into the machine and hearing the Doctor Who theme come on that I hadn't heard for a while, because I've got used to the Peter Howell electronic version. So to suddenly hear that old version of the theme tune again was just brilliant. The range, of course, it went on incredibly for 20 years. It went on until 2003, the VHS range. But sadly, the BBC made the terrible mistake of leaving all the stinking stories right till the end of the range. So by the time you get to the end, you're getting a whole clutch of absolute stinkers: Underworld, Creature from the Pit, the Time Monster, the Mutants, Meglos, the Horns of Naimon, and my absolute nadir, the Sensorites. That was one of the final releases.
Yeah, but you had the 5 Doctors.
Yeah,
you had the 5 Doctors. Come on,
that was a diamond in the rough.
Do you know what I mean?
Tony L. Pneumatic means container operated by air or
Yes.
gas under pressure.
Oh, pneumatic.
Oh.
Pneumatic tape.
Yeah. I'm,
So how is an assistant pneumatic, one wonders.
Do you remember
Are they
pneumatic
clean?
tape, Simon?
Pneumatic? Oh, I remember pneumatic. I've got some old pneumatic tapes. They're about this big.
That
They're
big.
about this big.
Yeah.
They're like VHS tapes, but they're huge.
But a huge, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what were
Obviously
they
must
trying to
have-
say? That the female companions were full of hot air?
Yes.
I think so.
Maybe.
I think that's
Obviously,
exactly what they
it
were
must have
saying.
been a happy birthday for you that year, Simon. And
Oh
happy
my
birthday
god, it was just the
to
best birthday, Dan.
to
And
the
I
Doctor
remember
Who.
watching it 4 times on my birthday. I literally just kept rewinding it
Wow.
and rewatching it. On my, I know I can that story. I could literally, I won't. I could do the entire hour and a half story in one go, right for him.
Well, mine's had an error when I first got that one. It had
Did
an
it?
error.
What did you get? What was the error?
The tracking was off, so I had to, because I don't know if you know Betamax machine. It has this little wheel at the bottom. If the
Yeah,
tracking's
so
off,
did
you
a
have to turn
VHS.
it. Oh
Yes,
yeah.
so did a VHS.
So I had to literally turn it to the left so that the picture would stabilize. But
we all had
I
to
don't
do
know,
that.
I had a dodgy
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Oh no, you just always had to treat that tracking.
That tracking. Yeah.
Tracker,
Happy
so.
40th birthday to Doctor Who on physical media. I think
Absolutely, and very
nice.
finally
Very
tonight, we sort of pay honorary mention. This is an honorary mention only but it just feels absolutely right to do this in the 60th anniversary year. And we spoke at length. Was it last week or the week before about
It was
an
last
unearthly
week.
child and the pilot episode? Was that only last week?
Yes, last
It
week.
was.
Well,
and
no,
so-
was it last week? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was.
yeah.
There we go.
It was.
And so we're actually oddly returning to an unearthly child this week because today would have been the 76th birthday. Get this, the 76th birthday of Brian Thomas, who was one of the uncredited actors who played one of the schoolboys. There he is, in both in the pilot episode and in An Unearthly Child. And he's uncredited, bless him, but he's in both the pilot and the actual transmitted episode. There he is, right in the middle there, doing his very best acting of looking. I don't know what he's looking at, truth be told. It's kind of difficult to tell. I wouldn't want to hazard a guess there. And there's a girl behind him who's got absolute daggers in her eyes for Carol Ann Ford. She's so convinced that she's in the background. But there, as I say, it's Brian Thomas, bless him, in the middle there. And now I can reliably inform you that the one on the left there is from the pilot episode. And the one on the right is from An Unearthly Child, and I know this because of the hairstyle. It's ever so slightly different between the two. And in Brian Thomas, bless him, he's lucky lad because in An Unearthly Child, in the actual transmitted episode, he gets to do a bit more acting by standing up halfway through the scene.
Excellent.
Whereas he only gets to sit down all the way through the pilot. So Brian Thomas, bless him, yeah, he would have been 76 yesterday. He died, bless him, very young, 55, after a long illness, apparently, in 2003. But he did loads of other stuff as well. He did Dixon of Dock Green, as everybody did in those days. Sykes, he was in Sykes. But he went on to much, much greater things because he became the lighting director, believe it or not, of the Royal Court Theatre in London.
Wow.
So he went on to far greater things than standing up halfway through the scene of An Unearthly Child. If you look very carefully, you also see him in the opening scene. The opening scene in Coal Hill School, where the two lads walk down the corridor and say something to the girls, and the girls whisper, and it's all very, very Hollyoaks. And Brian Thomas is just out of shot. Bless him, he hasn't quite mastered the art of television acting at that point because he masks himself directly behind the head of one of the girls and disappears. But he gets he's star of the science lab scene. And so, yeah, honorary mention only, Brian Thomas, wherever you are, bless you. We wish you happy 76th birthday. And it just seemed appropriate in the 60th anniversary to wish you happy.
It absolutely is, because we've all seen the face, we've all seen the scenes, and those wordless performances. They're performances nonetheless. And the pilot episode, that first episode, would be unthinkable without every single image that appears up on the screen like that. So yeah, it's a lovely thing to just tip a nod to in the animation, Simon. Thank you for putting the diary together this time.
And did I notice that somebody in the chat had said that they'd gone back and watched the pilot episode after we talked about it last week?
That's right. This is Michael. He says that I watched An Unearthly Child, the unaired pilot, following Simon's recommendation.
Did you like it, Michael? That's the
Yeah, what did you think?
He did like it. He did like it. He said he thought it was better than the transmitted one.
I can see why he might say that. It's got a very different take. I like the darkness of it, the mystique.
Many people feel similarly. They do. So yeah, again, Simon, thank you for putting the diary together.
I'm closing
this
it up.
time.
Metaphorically.
So if people look, I love that. I can tell, but look at the smiling faces around, all those messages in the live chat. If they loved it as much as we did, Simon, what have they got to do?
Oh, all they've got to do is like and subscribe.
And comment. Please leave more comments. We had a lovely time replying to people.
We've got, let me just have a little look here. How many people have we got? We've got 77 people watching at this precise moment in time, and only 44 likes.
It's going up all the time. Yeah.
Come on, we need more likes.
Yeah, we need at least 75% engagement there. Please like the video now. Come on, it's just a little click away, isn't it, Jack?
Yes.
Otherwise, we'll just stop doing it. We can't do it if we don't get the likes.
Subscribe. Takes a split second, everybody. Thanks again for that, Simon.
If we get 77 likes, Ian will eat Jaffa Cakes live. How about that?
It's coming up again now as well. Thanks again for that, Simon. More from the diary next time, no doubt. Lots more fun to come your way here on Type 40 Live, but it is that time where we all take a couple of minutes break to visit the smallest room in your Tardis for a bit of a rest, or you can go and top up your drink if you like. Those blessed with more capacious bladders, and maybe you're already well enough watered as it is, you get to enjoy these morsels from Doctor Who Past, these video tasties with somebody who may find very, very familiar. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with more Type 40 Live. Enjoy the ad break.
Yes, of course, madam. This is a news flash. Can anybody identify the following faces?
If his kickback's full of wrinkles, he's an able man. If he reeks of rum and winkles, he's an able man. If he hums a little ditty and he tells you that you're pretty, you can bet your Bristol City he's an able man.
The wonderful thing about baking a cake, it's like waiting for a birth. You put something in, you wait, you worry, and something wonderful comes out.
I said, do you mind if we go over and see Mother on Sunday?
Well, come on, son. I take it you can remember your own name.
Jenkins, sir.
Can't hear you, son. Get some air into your lungs.
Jenkins, sir.
Begging leftovers is hardly a sign of affluence.
You mean that shepherd's pie?
The rustic pot roast.
It was for the chickens.
And they didn't like it.
Sorry, Grayson. You call me school bully. You miserable little tick.
It's a bit of a snag, because it's a bit difficult to talk properly with these in your mouth.
Very good. The BBC would like to congratulate you on your good taste. Obviously, you know what you like. Video tasties from the BBC and from any video shop, even the one around the corner. Well, don't just sit there. Enjoy yourselves. There's plenty more where these came from.
The one around the corner, Tom. The one around the corner. Why does he make it sound like it's some sort of sex shop selling smutty videos of some kind? Welcome back to Type 40 Live, your live stream Doctor Who magazine show where we clock all the fixed and not so fixed points in the Whoniverse, both on and off screen. I'm still here with not just with Tom Baker and Cyberman and some bloke from Enlightenment there, but I'm still here with the panel. We've got Simon Horton. We've got Jack in the nerd den over in the corner. Charlotte Shields is down here too. Hey. And we've got starry-eyed girl Sarah Graham. She's obviously still been caught short. She's out there. And Ian David Diaz there in the bottom corner for more. And as if that wasn't good enough, we're streaming this over to Facebook and to YouTube and Rumble too. So whichever platform you're on, keep the comments coming. There's a lot more to talk about here on Type 40 Live. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications to more podcasts and live streams coming your way. Yeah,
I've got to say though, Dan, I've never seen that promo before for BBC Video. That was brilliant. I've never seen that before.
It's glorious, isn't it?
And I've never seen that, and I've never seen the photo either, which is clearly must be from the launch, because I can see that Tom's got his BBC Video badge on there, and he's in his typical that pinstripe suit he always used to wear. And he's there with the Cyberman and one of the space-suited guys from Enlightenment. Never seen that before. That's gold dust. Oh, I've just spotted as well the Cyberman, and it's got the little sticker on as well.
Yeah, and so is the dude from Enlightenment's got it on his backpack as well.
Brilliant. Where did you? That's just such a cool photo.
Marvelous. I'll send it to you. Yeah, it's a cracker.
You don't get this on other shows, do you, Dan? Come on.
You don't get this stuff on Radio Free Scaro, Mr. Todd, and all these places. No. All those lightweights, we'll show them how it's done here on Type 40 Live each and every single time. The weeks are closing in. Yes, 7 weeks. 7 weeks to the anniversary itself. We're seeing bits and bobs here and there. 2.5 minutes with yes, I like it. Let's get the Wembley waves going, and let's get the Awoogas going too. Just 7 weeks till the anniversary date itself. We think we're going to get to see a little more of all new Doctor Who before then. They're going to start bringing out those specials. The 3 specials we're going to get: the Star Beast, Wild Blue Yonder, and the Giggle. Ian, are you okay, mate? You lost something, buddy?
No, you just disappeared for.
Did I?
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah, you did. It's okay.
It's not the end of the world. If I disappear for a second, I'll be back in good time. But even I can stand a second's worth of excitement. So there's the Star Beast, Wild Blue Yonder, and the Giggle all coming our way. We think we've got some reasonable idea when, and we can start filling in some of the blanks and hopefully get more artwork and get more faces. And we can find out what that enormous mass is behind the Tardis, Jack. I still think that somebody's about to pop their head out from that, maybe with wearing a fez and a dicky bow, and it would be nice to see somebody. I don't know, because David Tennant has promised us, Matt. This is a quote from Mr. David Tennant not that long ago. He assured us that we filmed with a lot of other people on a closed set. You're nowhere near the whole story, and we must stay tuned, Jack. Are you tuned?
Oh, I'm more than tuned. I'm ready to rock and roll.
November, whenever, can't come fast enough, can it, Charlotte? How are you? How are your anticipation levels for this now?
I'm really intrigued still, and I just sort of now I'm just hoping that we do get another nice little bit of something beforehand, whether that's another trailer or a clip or something, and then but. I'm ready to watch, I think, now. I'm in that stage.
Anticipation. Carol Jude, David Tennant's unofficial biographer, says, hello, Carol. Says, you have in capital letters, so you know she means this. You have no idea. David Tennant, August 2022. Looking forward to seeing soon, says Paul Flint. I think, aren't we all? Obviously, results may vary. I know some people are going to take more convincing than others, but there we go. Oh, we have Simon Ashley says, excuse me, Dan, speak for yourself. Now, what does he say? What's that in relation?
What were you saying, Dan? What were you saying?
I don't know. What did I say?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Controversial, presumably.
I come out with all sorts of stuff. You don't got to pay too much attention to what I say, Simon. I never do. Yeah, so the saying goes, you see, that you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. And we've seen the Doctor choose friend after friend, haven't we, over the last 60 years, recruiting companions for his travels in space and time. Throughout all that time, and most of that time, his kith and kin have remained shrouded in mystery. So much so that even I forget, and I've seen these episodes hundreds of times in some respects, I forget that when we first met the Doctor, he was indeed travelling with a family member. And all year, where all of these little rumours, and they've tracked all the way back to those comments that David Tennant said in those quotes. So all year, people have been speculating about who could come back, and it hasn't been limited to just the Doctors. People are wondering about his friends and maybe his family, because there's this one whisper of a very specific return that has never gone away. Is it wishful thinking, or is it a genuine possibility that that maybe Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter, could be one of the cast members in the specials that we're going to get to see in just a few weeks' time? There, the actress Carol Ann Ford, of course, who's been associated with the show since right the way back in 1963. Now, I've spoken about this a little before, but it's all brewing up again, Simon. Are you aware of the speculation?
No, I hadn't heard anything at all about it. I mean, it's one of those things that it just never goes away, but I always think it's because we're all wishing it to happen that we're constantly kind of aware of it. But no, I haven't heard new rumours. That are these kind of definite, in inverted commas, rumours that it might actually be happening this time? Is there some whispers out there?
Well, yeah, there are. And earlier in the year, for example, Radio Times ran a poll where they asked who would fans like to return the very, very most. And the name Carol Ann Ford came back. Carol Ann Ford as Susan came back with something like 42% of the vote. What Doctor Who fans, that's very, very good. And I don't think that they would have publicised that in the way that they did had they not had an idea that there might be some appetite for it. I think that they're very, very canny about those things. But looking at the three specials, you see, this has been how I've felt about it, Jack, is that we've got 3 hours worth of screen time. Russell T Davies hasn't always been a big advocate of multi-Doctor stories. We've seen that quote from David Tennant that there are other people on a closed set. We'd all love to see Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, Paul McGann. These people, we'd love to see them. Of course we would. But the realities of it are that they've got 180 minutes worth of screen time. Mm-hmm. Or maybe just 60 minutes where there could be something explosive happen, such as other characters appearing. It's one thing to service potentially 4 or 5 more characters and actors. Another option could be to go back to 1 or 2 characters that maybe we haven't, that are just as tied to the identity of the show, that we haven't seen for as long, but to service 1 character and 1 actor / actress could be a little easier to balance than potentially 4 or 5 people playing the same character.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, I do kind of agree with Russell when it comes to multi-Doctor stories, especially recently, because, the last episode we had was technically a multi-Doctor story.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And going and doing that again, I think with what the Power of the Doctor did, it kind of took away from what the 60th anniversary could do. And we've already got David Tennant coming back, and we know that Ncuti is going to be involved in the specials to some capacity. So, yeah, there's better ways to represent, say, the classic era, and you could have a character that that we've all wanted to see come back for a while, and that would be Susan. Because Susan, she's tied to the Doctor's identity. It looks like the Doctor's having a little bit of an identity crisis in these specials as well.
Yeah, it does.
So who better to remind the Doctor of who he is than his granddaughter? I think that is pretty much, and also as well, it's the 60th anniversary. It's kind of now or never, really, with bringing back Susan. Even if it is just for a 2-minute scene, I think it would be lovely to bring her back.
Carol Ann Ford was born in 1940. Prior to Doctor Who, she'd been in a couple of movies, the Triffids, the Day of the Triffids movie in 1962, and it had a long and diverse career all around before and after a time on Doctor Who, particularly theatrical work, Simon, musicals and comedies. There were a couple of movies, St. Trinian's films and things, and other TV shows she turned up in, things like The Likely Lads and Public Eye, and some comedies and dramas. She left acting for a while in 1977 due to an illness, sort of robbed her of her voice, really affected her health. And so she moved into to teach vocal performances and presentation skills to people doing after-dinner speaking and politicians, public figures, that kind of thing. But found her way back into acting to some degree. She originally screen tested to play Susan. She was invited to do so after they saw her in a small part in an episode of Z-Cars. And she really brought something distinctive to those early episodes, I think. She's a very distinctive actress with a lot of charisma and remains so, I think, to this day. Apparently, Carol Ann Ford is quite eccentric. You've met her, haven't you, Sarah?
Yeah, kind of, by accident.
Yeah.
She's absolutely lovely, and she's a little bit eccentric.
Did you bump into her then, Sarah?
Pardon?
Did you bump into her?
I bumped into her in the ladies' loo with Katie Manning. I didn't realise who it was.
No.
Yeah. Have I not told you this story before, Simon?
I don't recall this one. I think I'd remember it.
So I'm there doing doing my lippy in the mirror, by the sinks as you do, Charlotte. And I suddenly look, and I'm like, I know these faces.
No
and it was
way.
Katie Manning and Carol Ann Ford. And
no way.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant story. Did you chat to them? Did you speak to them?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But obviously I was kicking myself because I didn't have anything on me. But, you can't really whip anything out, can you, in that kind of situation that'd be a bit dodgy. So,
here's my autograph book.
Whip something out.
Well, you could tear off a leaf of toilet paper, but the problem is the pen would probably go quite through it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Dear.
Yeah.
Why does it always come back to toilets on this show? Oh God. I agree. Obviously, I completely agree with what Jack's saying. I think while we've still got her, and and she's mobile, and she's up for doing it, and she clearly loves being part of Doctor Who and being part of the fandom. Why not make use of her?
Can I ask a question? So this character, she is to the Doctor. Who is she to the Doctor?
Granddaughter.
So she's the granddaughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean to say that she's via blood as the granddaughter to the Doctor. No.
It was never explicitly stated on screen, but obviously, why not? Why wouldn't it be? I mean, I
so
believe...
is she a time lady then?
Well, we don't really know. Well, Ian, we don't know because obviously all Gallifreyans are not Time Lords. People in the chat are asking, would she have regenerated by now? Just because she's Gallifreyan, that doesn't mean that she can regenerate.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. So
it was never
explained.
Retro Doc actually asked this question in the chat as well. It has never been explicitly stated whether she's a time lady, whether she's a Gallifreyan, even, or whether she is genuinely related to the Doctor. It's never been clarified one way or the other.
The way I look at it, if somebody spends however 40 episodes calling somebody grandfather and him saying that that's my grandchild, why would we disbelieve that?
Well, I suppose there's a possibility that she might have been adopted by when she was a time dot. She might have been adopted, and they just carried the myth on, and she never knew. She didn't realise she was. I don't know.
But family's family, isn't it? Adopted or not, it's still his granddaughter.
Absolutely, but they might not be related by blood, is what I mean.
No, but they clearly had that relationship on screen.
Yeah. Yes.
They had that link. I think they were gorgeous together.
Yeah.
Well, here's hoping
Susan.
If she does come back, they don't explain it.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it would make sense because where we left her in Classic, I'm not counting. I know she's done Big Finish, but I'm talking telly stuff now.
Yeah. It's only really worth thinking about.
She got left on Earth with like the boy she fell in love with in that story, and I really love her exit. It's one of my favorite Classic companions exits because you see her grow throughout all of her Classic run, but you especially see it in this story. She gets a lot braver. She gets a lot more adventurous. And you sort of do see a hint of this sort of love and thing she has for this lad. And then the moment when the Doctor lets her go, and it's very much written like that, that you've got this grandfather he doesn't want her to go, but the speech he gives her is very like, I'm doing this because I love you and it's the best thing for you.
So does her boyfriend wash his face? Because his face looks very dirty for some reason.
He'd had a bit of an afternoon.
Daleks.
But let's not forget, Charlotte, as well. You're right. Those final scenes in Dark Invasion of Earth are just beautifully written. I always think that they're way ahead of their time in that they seem to be coming from a show that is far more mature than it actually is at that point, which is only about 18 months old at that point.
Yeah.
But the way it's handled with such gravitas, it's acting as though it's far more established, and it's acting like a 60-year-old show at that point in many ways. And of course, Susan is the first companion to leave the show. She'd been again, back in through that first year, Doctor Who was on pretty much every week for virtually the entire 18 months that she was in. It was almost a soap opera. And so it was a major thing for her to be the first person to leave the show, because it hadn't happened until that point.
Yeah.
And the way I saw it as well, it was the Doctor letting go of the final bit of his homeland, his home link.
It is.
And he was fully now with Ian and Barbara. Strangers, started off as strangers, nothing back. So that's why I think it'd be lovely. And I do think I would love to see Tennant be the Doctor to see her, because I can remember when Tennant first was with the stuff with Sarah Jane, fondly enough, and you could just see it in his eyes.
Yeah.
As a fan, he was just in his awe of her. But it wasn't just that. It was, you could tell that link, because he was a fan growing up. He loved Sarah Jane, so that translated to his Doctor seeing her again. And I can't help but think he would be the same for Susan, even though she's obviously not as current as Sarah Jane would have been to him. He still is a Doctor Who fan and he adores the show, so he would have that link to be able to buy a granddad seeing their granddaughter after hundreds or whatever years it would be at this point.
Yeah, well, that scene in School Reunion when they meet is just beautifully written and beautifully acted. I still think it's one of the most powerful scenes.
Oh yeah,
modern Doctor Who.
For me, Charlotte, partly based on lining up to what you've just said. One of the reasons why that scene works so well is because Liz Sladen was so charismatic, so beautiful, and so full of life, and a very particular actress. For these specials coming up, if you're going to bring back old characters, David Tennant is an incredibly charismatic actor.
Yeah.
Bring him back to this role, it's going to have the entire nation talking, hopefully the entire world talking, Jack. That's what we want for this show. There are very few characters from the past, and this is no slight on anybody else who's played either a Doctor or a companion. There are very few of them who could come back and match a returning David Tennant after all that time. For my money, Carol Ann Ford, and admittedly, I haven't seen her act on screen for quite a time now, but I've heard her on audio. She's still got that same slightly alien, otherworldly quality about her. This woman, and bear in mind, she's like 5 foot nothing, probably even smaller now, but you can see her performance was so peculiar.
Yeah,
just like Hartnell's, they seemed like they were from the same race. I believe to put her against to complement David, they would complement one another beautifully, and they would instantly evoke that relationship. And she would bring with her that weight of all the decades in between too, because she's still recognizably the same person. Appearance-wise, I mean, no, she's 82, but she still looks like Susan. It's quite strange, and so I obviously the appetite there for more classic fans is understandable if you've grown up with her as a fundamental of this show, even only being on the first year. The appetite's understandable, but Jack, for someone such as yourself, you mentioned earlier on that your mum grew up watching this show, but for someone such as you've reached back to the old show. What do you feel is the worth of the character of Susan now, and what do you think the potential power could be in bringing her back? Is she just a walking Easter egg, or is there really the potential for pathos in there that certainly that I see and I see?
I think the reason why Susan should come back is it does kind of bring things full circle, really, because it did start off with the Doctor and Susan, and I was just thinking of this actually. The heartbreaking reality in the Whoniverse, the Doctor's family are dead. Like, they're all gone, whether that be from the Time War or something like that. It's been said a lot of times that the Doctor doesn't have any family left. And I do think if Susan is included, which from the person who reported on this originally, I am inclined to believe it's true. I do think that it will be used as either as an illusion from the toy maker or maybe some form of afterlife sort of thing. And I do think, bringing Susan back does bring things full circle again, but it also it looks like the Doctor's going through some identity crisis from what we've seen from the dialogue in the trailer. And I think bringing back, a close family member who's no longer here would certainly remind you of who you are and what you're fighting for, and certainly remind you of what the Doctor is.
Yeah. Peter Capaldi was a massive fan of Carol Ann Ford, and he petitioned quite hard to Stephen Moffat to bring the character back to the screen while he was playing the Doctor. He got his wish for the Talosian, for the Mondasian Cybermen, but his other wish list item was the return of Carol Ann Ford. That she spent some time on the set with him, and it never ultimately happened. In some ways, this feels like unfinished business from decades ago, Ian. And there's a real. Do you think that this is something that would be lost on the general public, or would they pick up if it was written properly and filmed correctly, and if she was given due reverence? Do you think it would still what we feel about this character, the general public would pick up on it too?
I don't think the general public will know who she is, especially the ones that just got into to New Who, as they call it. I don't think it will happen, but it'll be good for us, the diehard fans, and
it's all in the writing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But also, right, just on the side, it shouldn't be her that's come back. It should be Hugh Grant. That's who it should be. Hugh bloody Grant. But no, if she comes back, it'd be great. I think it'd be nice to see Susan again, but I don't want any explanation of how she's connected to the Doctor and all that. Just want it to be a mystery and just leave it as that. That's what I think. So please don't mess it up for us and explain.
Yeah. See, recently, Russell T Davies, he responded to a promotional clip. Well, I say recently, it was early in the year because I made a video about it. So, yeah, they put up this clip onto the social media, Charlotte, that you talked about earlier on, the big goodbye scene from Dalek Invasion Earth story, and Russell T Davies responded to her with whatever happened to her, and the chin stroking emoji there.
He's teasing us again.
Yes.
That has to be a reference to that she's going to be, and I hadn't seen that, but that just has to be.
Obviously, he did warn us, Simon, that he would be teasing us a good year ago now. He said he'd be popping up here and there, but I think this is a particularly big carrot to dangle. He's aware, isn't he, how the fandom feels about her.
Do you reckon that was the character they were sneaking in?
Could have been that photo that was doing the rounds. Could have been.
I hadn't thought of that.
I just genuinely don't think that Russell would do that particular emoji if he wasn't bringing her back. Why would you do that? You just wouldn't do it. You just wouldn't do it. It'd be shooting yourself in the foot.
Carol Ann Ford has spoken about this a little, Simon, and she said that Peter Capaldi was batting for me the whole time. This is she spoke about this earlier in the year. The Radio Times got in touch with her to speak about her victory in the poll of people that people wanted to see come back. Peter was batting for me the whole time. He desperately wanted us to do something together. I went up to Cardiff. We were dancing around the Tardis set together. So I started singing, I want to come back. I want to come back. I think we know what Carol's answer would have been if the call came. It's
interesting. I saw her last spring in 2022 at Capitol. She was one of the guests at Capitol down at Gatwick Convention. And they presented her with, I can't remember what it was, some sort of lifetime achievement award sort of thing from the DWS. And she was just in tears. She still clearly has so much love and affection and pride in her association with the show. And she's literally in tears. Charlotte, you got to go. You're in tears. Waving to say goodbye.
That was my dad going, come on. Right, so I'll see you again.
Good night, Charlotte. Thanks
Good night, Charlotte.
This evening. Take care.
See you, love. Bye.
But yes, it was just lovely to see. She literally was just in tears that she was so moved to have been given this award. By DWS that just recognised her contribution to the show. And so it was just lovely to see, to be honest. She still clearly, as I say, has so much love and pride in the show.
Time Lord 2023 says Susan's return would be an emotional moment for Tennant's Doctor. He would be overjoyed to have her back in his life, and he would be eager to make up for lost time. If he's got the time, it sounds like he's in for the fight of a lifetime. The situation is often very grave, isn't it, when these celebration stories are kicking off? So heaven knows. What else have we got here? We've got several comments. People are, I've got nobody saying that they don't want this to happen. Basically, it's a very, very popular pick from the bench of characters from Doctor Who past, and Carol Ann Ford continues to record audio stories as Susan. In fact, I think there's one out next month. She's part of the Big Finish anniversary celebrations and has her own, not her own line of stuff as such, but there's been dedicated Susan sets and things. But obviously on screen, the last time that we saw her canonically was in the Five Doctors. Ian, I know you're familiar with that story.
Yep.
Obviously opposite Richard Hurndall that time. But again, she didn't get, in a way, it was kind of shameful that she got so little to do in that, with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah.
But I think that she still, in that, had a lot of that charisma about her. I wouldn't. All eyes were on Richard Hurndall, of course, trying to recreate that character in the way that he did. But again, perfectly matched with Carol Ann Ford. She had that sense of alienness about her even then, despite having been out of acting for a while. But I do think that she got so little to do in that, particularly after the halfway mark, Simon, that to bring her back and to have her a key part of the story would be the only way to go. I think it can't be a cameo.
No. I 100% agree, and I don't think Russell would even consider bringing her back just for a cameo. If he's going to bring her back, he'd go the full shebang, just as he did with Sarah. And it makes sense. I mean, the thing is with the Five Doctors, it's difficult because
it was.
Of course, none of them really, truthfully, had a lot to do because there was so little plot spread across so many people, which isn't a criticism in the slightest. That's just the nature of the beast. And so she was no more hard changed than, for example, Tegan and Turlough, who were the companions at the time and spent the entire story stuck in the TARDIS. It was what it was, but it would be, I think, as I say, Russell wouldn't even consider bringing her back. I would hope he wouldn't consider bringing her back as a cameo, because that would feel shortchanging a really major character. I mean, I've often wondered.
It'd be a missed opportunity, Simon, wouldn't it? Really?
Yeah, exactly. I've often wondered what Russell would have done if he'd been in charge of the 50th. It's always intrigued. What would he have done with the 50th? Well, of course, it would have been very different to whatever to Stephen's version, but I think it would have been very, very different to Stephen's version.
Also, I don't envy Russell T on this 3 that he's making with David Tennant, because what do you do when you're celebrating a 60th? I mean, do you get other doctors in there? Do you get people that would, like Susan back? What the hell do you do? Do you know? And it's a difficult choice to make.
People haven't seen before, heard before.
Yeah.
But I think, to be honest, Russell is the kind of character that actually he doesn't give a damn. I don't think that keeps him awake at night worrying about which doctors do I bring back, he doesn't give a damn. He just goes with his vision. You like it or you lump it. He is merciless from that point.
Because as much as we love those moments, Ian, whereby the old doctor comes back and says, "You've redecorated this place. I don't like it," and we all go ha ha, and it is nice to hear that stuff again. Yeah. But there is the flip side to it is that if you do it too many times, it kind of becomes panto. This is the bit where they say this. This is the bit where the Dalek turns up. This is, so perhaps it is time to mix it up a little.
But Dan, I would counter that by saying you are quite right. It's a really good point that I've not really thought of it like that before. But I would counter.
I love all that stuff.
Absolutely. But I would counter that by saying I think at the 60th, and I've said this, that I think it should have been the same at the 50th. We can afford to be a little bit for the show to be a little bit self-indulgent and go a little bit panto, because at the end of the day, the Five Doctors is nothing but panto in many respects. But it works so beautifully. Look how much love there is for it. So I think you can afford, with a 60-year-old show, to go a bit panto and retread those old lines again. Although we know they're all coming, because that's part of the love, celebrating what we love about the show. And I think that feels right and appropriate at certain times, occasionally, and this is the right occasion.
Well, we are dealing with the Toy Master in the first one. I mean, he's capable of, he's like Q, isn't he? He's capable of doing loads of different things. So even if it's just a brief appearance from Matt Smith or someone like that, because of the toy maker, that would be welcomed, especially from me. So I don't know about you guys, but
we're going to all have a shopping list, aren't we? Peter Harrington says she must operate the TARDIS console again. I think, oh God, just to see her stood at a TARDIS console, any TARDIS console, would kind of make the hair stand up on the back of your neck almost, Simon. It's it'd be like seeing the Beatles.
I'm literally beginning to get teary-eyed thinking.
It'd be like seeing the Beatles all walk across the zebra crossing at Abbey Road again. You know.
I agree. The one thing I really hope doesn't happen, and I can see somebody else has said this in the chat as well, is that they hope that this isn't just the toy maker just creating an illusion that maybe turns out to be, I don't know, a villain or something. I just hate that. I felt that the recent trailer for the season 20 box set, where Nyssa turned out to be an illusion, I felt gutted by that. That was a kick in the gut. We've brought back Nyssa, but she's just an illusion and an evil one at that. It really upset me, that did. It felt, it left a really bitter taste in the mouth. That I thought that they did both the character of Nyssa and also Tegan a disservice. It undermined Tegan's return by having Nyssa as it just felt all wrong. So I'm praying they don't do that.
I think some writers just don't get it, do they? They just don't get the idea that they shouldn't really, pee off the fans, or they should try and think about what they're writing. Because they can doesn't mean to say they should, if you know what I mean. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Carol's got a comment here. She says it's part television special, part celebration for everyone involved in the show. Fan service, member berries, all welcome, and the plot can be fashioned to fit. Usually, I would agree. In principle, generally speaking, I do agree. But I feel that that is a way to go when a series is riding high.
Yeah,
it was absolutely the right way to go in '83. It was definitely the right way to go in 2013. Now, with a series that's been on its arse, I actually think that the plot has to come first this time. And I wish we weren't where we are now, but we are where we are, Jack. Do you see what I'm saying? The fine line. Part of me wants what they want, all the fan service, but I think that there's something else. I think there's
you can have both.
I don't think you can. Not in this case. I don't think you can.
I think you can. Yeah, it just takes a good writer.
You can if there's the talent that can do it, and I think Russell can do that.
Jack,
I mean, take the Power of the Doctor, for example, which was very nostalgia heavy and felt like an anniversary special itself, and it did go way over the board with the nostalgia.
In theory,
obviously, these anniversary specials, they've got a lot more challenges ahead of it compared to a 50th, because this has got to reboot the show. It's got to bring back the audience that didn't enjoy the last era, and bringing back David Tennant, who is one of the most well recognized names, not just in Doctor Who, but in the UK and abroad. So I think nostalgia, it does sell, but I think you've just got to drip feed it a little bit, especially after just having a fan wanky episode as well with the Power of the Doctor. So you just got to kind of take it from a different approach, but also bear in mind that it is a celebration. As Ian said, you can do both, and I do feel like Russell can do it, but will it meet our expectations? We'll have to wait and see.
It probably won't.
The reappearance of this woman would certainly go a long way for me. I do think that it's kind of now or never in many respects, because the series is sort of entering into its third iteration now, and the people who were children when Doctor Who began, Simon, and there are plenty of people who were the target audience when the series first started, like 8, 9 years old, who are still with us and still watching the show. We meet them in the fandom all the time. I mean, the late Ian McLaughlin was a prime example.
Yeah,
there are plenty of them around, but obviously times do change, and I think it would be a nice segue as it sort of moves off. And I do feel this is kind of unfinished business. It would also, I think, be a nice bookend to the reappearance of William Russell, who was there in The Power of the Doctor, with all those past companions who came back there for that special, and which was lovely, you know, and everybody loves William Russell too, and he is made of awesome, you know, well over 90 and holding his own in that scene there. But Carol Ann Ford not having come back for all that time, please make it happen. In the meantime, this Susan, I know I talk about this Susan's War box set is absolutely fantastic, and she's incredible in it. And it was recorded they released it about 2 years ago, so it was probably recorded three and a half years ago. But she has not lost it. She's still got a great handle on who this character is, or who she could be, obviously in a potential return to the screen opposite any Doctor. She's great with Paul McGann. They've done several together, but who can resist the idea of her with the current Doctor or Doctors, however that rolls out, Jack? I just want it to happen really, really badly.
Yeah, it would be epic to see. It really would.
She's Susan Foreman, as she was known in the show. Well, just on the score register, I think her name was just Susan Simon. And again, this is my headcanon. Her name is Susan, and they filled in the Foreman bit because it was written on the sign, and they just needed a name. You know, that's what my headcanon tells me. So Susan is the Doctor's only living actual relative that we know of, who's out there in the Whoniverse, still bouncing around, maybe with a TARDIS of her own, maybe doing something else we don't necessarily know. Or is she? Because if we look back to 2008, there's one other character that springs instantly to mind, a character who has not quite over as long a period of time as Susan, but people have wanted to see her again. I'm talking about Jenny. Jenny, who, wherever you want, for a second. Whatever you want to call them. Yeah, there was the provocative episode title that we all saw in 2008, The Doctor's Daughter. Is that going to be a red herring? I remember thinking at the time, they don't mean literally her daughter, his daughter, sorry. And she sort of wasn't, was she? But she was the Doctor's child. She was his offspring, built from his DNA. And she got two hearts, and she stepped out of that sort of cryogenic regeneration chamber, didn't she, Sarah, in that episode? She was effectively born, but she was a very different kind of character, wasn't she? She was on this planet of Messaline, wasn't it, where they were all fighters, weren't they? They were all born fighters, everybody who came out of those machines. And part of the driving force of that story was how she was ideologically opposed to her father. It's a fascinating character that they only had 40 minutes worth of screen time to play with. Georgia Moffat, as she was then, Georgia Tennant, of course, as we now know her, very, very linked to the show for several obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. But the character of Jenny, people have never stopped speculating about her, have they? Is it because she's out there and we don't know what she's doing and there's so much potential there? Is it a fondness for Georgia herself? What do you think that is?
I think honestly, it's probably a little bit of both. I mean, it was frustrating, when she flies off at the end and we've never seen her again since. Like, well, what's the point in keeping her alive if you weren't going to do anything with her? So I'm glad she's had a chance to shine in the Big Finish stories. But yeah, it would be nice to have her back and see what she's been up to. And she is as popular as some of the Doctors and companions. I mean, with who she is and who her relatives are, and how much she shares of herself and the family. On social media, people feel like they know the Tennants and the Davisons. And she appeared in the show that they did at Staged with David Tennant and Michael Sheen, and she popped up in that. And so I'd argue that she is just as popular now as her husband is.
Now, I'm thinking, again, back to that quote of David Tennant's there, Ian, where he said, we filmed with a lot of people. On past experience, like we've said before, that tends to mean Doctors, companions, but it could be Jenny. We know that it's a source of it's a source of frustration between David Tennant and Georgia that they don't get to work together. That's one of the reasons why I think they wrote Staged and put that into practice. But if this is, I'm not gonna even I'm not going to even put that out there. It's not going to be the last time David Tennant ever plays Doctor Who, but this could be the last chance to bring this character back while people still remember and people still care. So, what do you think, Ian? Could this be a possibility that Jenny could come back as well for these specials?
I hope not. No, I mean, well,
not your heart to please.
Yeah, the episode was okay, and I was quite happy she flew away and stuff like that. She was a bit irritating in that episode, I found, but just to bring her back because she's married to David Tennant, she may be known in Big Finish. I've never listened to a Big Finish, and I always consider Doctor Who a visual thing, not a listen in your ears thing. Me, because I don't listen to Big Finish, but. She came and she went, basically, and just leave it at that, in my opinion.
I would agree with Ian. It felt a very poor story.
It was.
It was a poorly written character. And I can't remember a single thing about her. If we're going to bring somebody like that back, I'd say bring back Sally Sparrow. If we're going to bring somebody, or Linda with a Y. If we're going to bring somebody of that kind of ilk back, that's who it felt. I think you said it earlier, Dan. I felt a bit short-changed by this episode. It just felt like a complete non-episode that was hanging. But
to be fair, the guy who wrote that episode isn't going to be writing these specials. So the episode itself is kind of by the by. Well, I'm thinking more of the potential for the character.
But why would we be? I'm trying to work out. I can't. Whereas we've talked about Susan and why the potential we can see of her coming back. I just can't see. I didn't think the character had enough potential to warrant coming back. I must be honest, personally. So I don't know what you would do with the character.
I think that even though we did see her evolve in that 40-odd minutes, such as it was, I think the fact that she's not a carbon copy of the Doctor and believes different things to him, and if we did meet her several years later, who knows what her experiences would have been, what kind of life she's made for herself without his influence, but with the ability to potentially regenerate multiple times, kind of like Captain Jack, I suppose, multiple times, but not seemingly change her appearance. Could that be mine for pathos in the same way that the character of Susan has been? Because the Doctor doesn't know she's alive in the TV universe that we know of. So there's that too.
I just think it would have to be. Does anybody out there at all care enough about this character to want to see her back?
When I'm out there in Doctor Who Facebook groups and on Twitter, I do see a lot of support for this character, a lot of fondness for her. Yeah, so that's why I thought I'd sort of bring it to the table, really. And that it seems to be because people were delighted when she got her own Big Finish series. I mean, I've never listened to any of them either. I think it's a spin-off too far myself, Jack. But what do you think? You were growing up when these stories were airing. Is this a character you've wondered about over the years?
To be honest, no. And to be honest, I've kind of forgotten about Jenny because she's only in the show for like 40-odd minutes, and I'd much rather have Susan back, who has more of a personal connection. And yeah, I feel like bringing Jenny back, like what would she bring to the plot? No disrespect to Georgia as well. I just want to say, Jenny, I just don't feel like how she could fit into things, because you'd also have to explain what she's been getting up to and all that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, as I say, it is funny. I feel that somebody like Sally Sparrow or even Linda with a Y got far more characterization than Jenny ever did. I can remember both those characters far more clearly than Jenny. And I've always said I'd love to see both of them.
No, I love those characters as well, but I feel personally that this character was, despite the fact the story probably wasn't as well put together as it could have been, I actually put Jenny in the same bracket of those characters. Sarah, what do you think?
I don't think she's quite there. I don't remember getting as upset with Jenny as I did. My heart broke with Linda with a Y.
I still have sleepless nights.
I know what you mean, and I did too. But I really felt this moment between the Doctor and Jenny there, and the missed opportunity of him to get to know his child.
I'll have to rewatch this. I will.
Yeah, we'll have to rewatch it and review it. Or something.
It's really stuck with me, and I haven't revisited it as often as I have of the stories. I'll admit that.
Yeah.
What about
and to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of Georgia Tennant's. But
what about
I think there is
Jamie?
potential here.
What about Jamie? Why after so many years they've not brought him back? I mean, if they can bring back Donna, which she had her mind completely wiped, and I know what happened to Jamie, why don't they bring him back then? Because he's, Fraser Hines has been, a great supporter of Doctor Who. He's been around. He goes to the conventions and stuff like that, and he still looks okay, even though he's grey and everything. I think that would be a great thing if they brought Jamie back. Do you know what I mean? But I guess you guys don't agree. But
no, I agree.
For all we know, Ian, he might be, because we didn't see him in the role of the Doctor.
But I am talking. I'm talking specifically about the Doctor's family members, not as I said at the top. We've talked about old companions several times. This is more.
It is interesting that you do bring up Jenny, Dan, because a lot of people have been speculating that bringing Donna back is to kind of Russell feels like
unfinished business.
Unfinished business, and
it was finished though.
Maybe to right the wrongs of Donna's departure, which I hope he doesn't do, because I thought that was brilliant and tragic.
I was fine with it as it was.
But maybe he is thinking back to things. I thought, well, yeah, I had this character of Jenny, and I did. There was things I could have done with her that I didn't do. Because I think wasn't Stephen Moffat going to use her at one point?
That's right. Originally, the character was set to die, wasn't she, Jack? And they were going to leave it there, but Moffat intervened.
Yeah, he did. And then he joked in the Doctor Who magazine a while ago that she crashed into the moon after taking off on the spaceship. So
I remember that.
I have no clue what he intended to do with her.
But yeah, it's so maybe I don't know. Maybe it does feel like there was someone and he'd like to. But I have to say, it would be more difficult to get her in than it would with Susan. I'd feel more organic with Susan. And obviously we had Georgia in the Five-ish Doctors reboot, which I think was perfect for what she did, as playing herself.
Tony L says here, the actress, the Georgia Tennant, as she's now known, did some time ago put out a picture on social media of her wearing Jenny's boots during the time they were filming the specials. I didn't see this, but that's it's very playful and does sort of chime in to the general sort of red herring or maybe not initiative that does seem to be going on with people associated with Doctor Who. I'd not seen that. Had any of you guys seen Georgia wearing Jenny's boots again?
I remember seeing the post. However, I thought it was around series 14 filming. Again, I could be wrong though.
Oh, maybe.
I think in many ways, I think my feeling with sort of Jenny is I think she maybe has been hard done by, because I think it's one of those things that I feel cheated when you call an episode The Doctor's Daughter, and then they kind of bail a little bit. That just rankles, and I immediately just feel a degree of negativity towards the character. It was exactly the same when they did the episode Let's Kill Hitler.
I was about to say that.
It wasn't even in it.
Yeah. It was put in the cupboard.
It's basically dangling a carrot in front of the audience and then snatching it away and saying, ha, 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 I caught you out. And I hate that. Because it's taking the audience for an idiot. So I would have been much happier if they'd actually said, no, actually, she is the Doctor's daughter. She genuinely is your daughter. She's not come out of a machine because they'd cloned her from your No, forget that crap. No, make her the daughter and stick with what you're going to do. And I think the character. Well, firstly, the character undoubtedly would be more loved and more known now. And secondly, would be more remembered, because they would feel that they had some legitimacy in the way that Susan does. But you undermine the character immediately by saying, well, she's not actually your daughter, but she can't. We're playing with you. And I think it just sets you up for a fall, really. So I think that's probably the shame in the character, that it could have worked a lot better.
Yes.
I think there's a lot... a lot to be said for Stephen Moffat having not intervened in that, and maybe if we hadn't have seen her come back to life, not only would people have And it has died down over the years. It's not been as constant a hankering as it has been for other characters, but for a good few years. Well into Capaldi's time, people did talk about Jenny coming back. What about Jenny? When's she coming back? You've set it up for her to come back. Why hasn't she come back? If they hadn't have kept her alive, then people wouldn't be have expected her to return. And yet, I think there's still an appetite there. It just isn't as strong as it was. But it does feel like a bit of a hangover from that era, albeit one that was created kind of by Stephen Moffat. The comics have gone there. She did come back in the comics. A fun design, a fun strip here with the Capaldi Doctor and Bill and Nardole there, and Jenny in a sort of Time Lord armor stepping out of a time ship. So yeah, hello, Dad, miss me? And then Bill says, wait, what? And Nardole says, yeah, it's funny, I thought she was dead. And the Doctor says, so did I. So again, it's moments like that. I think that could be quite cool. And I do like the character. The live chat is divided. And most people remember, and most people seem to remember it fondly. But and some people really do want her back and really view the character as something important, whereas others do feel the same way that you do, Simon. It's somebody that is sort of perhaps the time's been and gone and all that kind of thing. And maybe it wasn't that great in the first place. Carol says she's the Doctor's daughter. She is important. Not for the 60th. But a spin-off, sure, says Jamie Knight.
No.
Time Lord 2023 says, I like Jenny's character, but I prefer Susan to make a return. As we get to remember, she was part of the Doctor Who history in the first ever episode. We've been through that. We know. I'm not saying these things are mutually exclusive, that it should be either or. But I just wonder, they've got 3 hours to play with. Who are they going to bring back? Is this they're going to make the Tennants happy and put them together there on screen? I think it's possible, even if it's not as likely and quite as desirable for me, certainly as getting Susan back. I think it would. I think there's potential there. Let's put it that way, without over egging that put in. I'd rather see Jenny back than River Song again, for example.
Oh God, yeah. But hold on, but it all depends, doesn't it? All depends on who's available at the time when they're going to shoot and all that. Doesn't it? So that all plays into it as well. I mean, who knows, right? Maybe Russell T wanted to do something else, but couldn't get the stars to be aligned for the production. And Catherine Tate was available, David Tennant was available. Do you know what I mean? And perhaps he was pushed into bringing her back. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe. I'm pretty sure it'll come out though. You know, in the future, why he made those decisions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hope there's a writer's tale volume 2.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how he came to those decisions and stuff like that. So, as I said, he's got a tough job, hasn't he? Tough job, man.
Really,
I think it's likely there will be a further book from Russell eventually. Stephanie Barrett's in the live chat on YouTube and says, I've always wanted to see Jenny back, and a good writer like Russell T Davies could write a great script and characterization for her.
Yeah. I mean, there's something worth mentioning about the Target novelizations, because normally we wait for years to get a novelization of a Doctor Who episode, whereas with these we're getting them it's January, isn't it? They release.
No.
It was. We covered this on the show a couple of weeks ago. So the paperbacks are coming out week on week over a 3-week period, seemingly to correspond with the broadcast dates of the specials. It seems to be.
Okay, because that's again, it's like a pretty much straight after, and it does make me think: are there things that Russell wanted to do in those specials which he couldn't, as you all said, with availability and stuff like that? So
probably. Probably, because we know the history of the 50th and what's his name wanted to do. So it's probably the same case, really. But as I said, I don't envy him. I mean, pressure's on top of him, and the 60th. And as Simon says, he doesn't give a shit. He just wants to write exactly what he wants to write, and who accepts it, and who doesn't. You know what I mean? That's it. So.
Could you imagine Jenny with the Toymaker saying something like, leave my dad alone? Yes, I can. And Paul Toastland says spin-offs ain't happening. Paul, they certainly intend on spin-offs happening. Whether obviously the writer strike's now ended, hasn't it? So maybe we'll get some. We were supposed to, from what I understand, from what sources have told, the writer's strike, they've come to an agreement.
Right.
I think.
Of course.
Yeah, the writer's strike
still going, right?
Yeah. The writer's strike was the main thing, wasn't it? As I understand it, what my sources tell me is that originally we were meant to have had an announcement about one spin-off by now, and that didn't happen because of the writers and actors strike. So I would. The intention is that we are going to get spin-offs from Doctor Who, and Russell T Davies said that quite a long time ago himself. Come to think of it. But there we go with that. One more bit of speculation, and this is a slightly wilder card to bring out of the pack, but it would be unfair not to recognise this character. When Russell T Davies was last writing the show, in that climactic two-parter that ended his time, the end of time over Christmas and New Year 2009, 2010, the entire thing was haunted by one particular presence, that of the woman. Played by the woman.
Oh, I've forgotten about her.
Strikes fear into the hearts of most men. The woman.
He takes no prisoners looking at her.
No. This was the woman, credited on screen as the woman, and played on screen, of course, by proper silver screen royalty, the actress Claire Bloom, who had been in films right the way back to the 1950s. So she started in a film with Charlie Chaplin, at Limelight with him, and she was one of Britain's most acclaimed actresses then, and went on to appear in a range of productions. Richard III, for example. There was a sci-fi movie, The Illustrated Man, if you've ever seen that, with Rod Steiger. She was married to Rod Steiger as well, and she did all sorts of TV shows and movies in her time. And we got her on screen. She's the kind of actress you wouldn't have thought we'd ever get in Doctor Who, but we did. She popped in.
Oh my God.
No, she didn't pop out, not at her age. Her appearances were littered throughout those specials, weren't they? And it was all very enigmatic, and she didn't say very much, but when she did, we were hanging on her every word, and we weren't sure why. It's partly because they cast the part so well. If you're going to cast one of these characters, Simon, who is basically a kind of walking mystery box, then you have to cast them really well. They have to come with them, import their own personal gravitas, don't they? And this being, I mean, you could say that these two episodes were, again, they weren't as tidy as they could have been. Claire Bloom was a class act, and that was evident, whoever she was on screen with, but particularly the stuff with Bernard Cribbins as Wilfred Mott.
Yeah, it's bizarre, really, because I definitely remember all the stuff being talked about at the time that she was the Doctor's mother, and yet it never went anywhere, and I can't remember why. It was almost like that was the intent. Well, I could be wrong. Did Russell T Davies say that was the intention? And then just
right here. So this is according to the book, The Writer's Tale, the final chapter. So the character was indeed conceived to be the Doctor's biological mother. That was Russell T Davies' intent throughout the entire time he was writing it. The Doctor's mum. It was pitched to the actress that she would be playing Doctor Who's mum. It was very late in the day that Russell chose to leave it unconfirmed. He felt it was more helpful to the story and perhaps to the audience to leave it open-ended as just an enigmatic female Time Lord. So it could be the Doctor's mum, but it could be Susan. It could be Susan's mum. There's a generation in between there, or it could even be Romana, or whoever the viewer viewing it at the time would wish it to be. I see. He viewed that as a good thing, Ian. Yeah, I'm always a bit of two minds to it. But so why do you think it was a good move?
Because it's called Doctor Who, and the thing is, though, the Doctor's meant to be mysterious. We don't really need to know about his background. You know what I mean? And they can dangle a couple of carrots in front of us. That's okay. But please don't give us an explanation. Yeah. We don't need it.
I would agree. We don't want an explanation. But the reason I think it was a mistake was because I think it was a mistake to have her in and not do anything with her, because it is this really strange character that you are sitting there thinking, sorry, who is this woman? Why is she there? What is the point of her? It's a completely pointless character, and it just sticks out like a sore thumb that there's this character in that you haven't got a clue what she. It's a little bit like if anybody's ever seen, God help you if you have, if anybody's ever seen Halloween 6, is it 5 or 6? That's got the mysterious man with the felt, with the hat and the cowboy boots. Nobody's got a clue who he is, and it completely ruins the story. So if you're going to, I just feel if you're going to go down that route, you've got to kind of commit to it, know your colours to the mast, and go for broke on it, or don't go down that route at all. And I would prefer not going down that route at all. And so I would favor just don't put her in.
He got cold feet. That's the impression.
I think he did. So he should have taken the character out. It shouldn't have been in there to muddy waters and to leave the general public on Christmas Day thinking, what? Who is she?
See, for my money,
Simon, you know what it's like working on
money,
TV, right?
For
you
my
know
money,
watching
that.
Sorry,
for my money, watching that at the time.
Yeah, go on.
I hadn't read any article saying that she was playing the Doctor's mum. I had no idea that Claire had been pitched the character that you're playing Doctor Who's mum. I don't think it had been in the press as such, so I didn't know that. But through watching the episode, and I think the camera shots imply she's the Doctor's mother, says Richard Brooks, and there's several other people saying that. Oh, that's what I took it just from watching it. This is the power of really good television and good storytelling. Even though no words were spoken, from the way that it was shot and the way it was performed by Bloom and by Tennant, I received that it was the Doctor's mummy. And so carry on.
No, I was just saying that Simon and myself know what it's like when you're writing stuff for TV. There's deadlines.
Yeah,
so you could have an idea, and then you could be committed to it. Then suddenly realize you don't want to be committed to it, and then the deadline is up. Right, and so therefore you have to go with what you've got. So that's probably that. I mean, I'm guessing here. Obviously, that might have happened with Russell T. That he suddenly had two minds about it, but it was too late. It was going into production. You know what it's like when you go into production on set and you've got the script. You're trying to rewrite it as you go along, and so that's probably what happened with this. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Time Law 2023 says, I remember when the woman was rumored to be Susan or the Doctor's mum. See, this is the thread tying all this together. Unfinished business. The Doctor's kin, the Doctor's family, and I certainly view that the only feasible, the only explanation for her identity that's really got any weight to it, logically for me, is that character is that the woman is the Doctor's actual mother. Yeah. Otherwise, it's exactly the same as you saying, Simon. Otherwise, it is absolutely pointless. But seeing as those scenes are in there, and no words are spoken, therefore the only explanation for the weight being put on this peripheral character is that she is of great significance simply in her connection to the Doctor. Throughout those scenes, whether the master, the scenes between her and she's there with Rassilon, isn't she? And there's weeping angels and things. All that is there. It's all they're arranged as characters almost biblically. It's like a classical painting or something come to life in that scene. Yeah. So, but in that, if you look at the master, it's unclear whether he knows who she is or not. In fact, or whether he's even clocked her. But there is no doubt at all in the glances between Tennant and Bloom in character. The Doctor knows exactly who she is. And then at Donna's wedding later on in the episode, Wilfred actually asks him, "Who was that?" Doesn't he?
Yes,
Jack?
he does.
He says, "Who was it?" And he just doesn't answer, does he? He doesn't say a word.
I think that scene as well that you mentioned, where there's no words spoken, but the Doctor recognizes the woman, and you can see in the Doctor's eyes that he's shocked and he's very tearful, really. But when he sees her, he ends that little toss-up he has between shooting Rassilon or the Master, and he tells the Master to get out of the way, and he shoots the machine to send the Time Lords back. And it's clear whoever the woman's meant to be, he doesn't want to face the past, and that's kind of who the Doctor is, really.
Yeah, I mean, I always took it that she was his mother because I think only a mother would do that and go out the way to protect a child, and she's got obviously the Time Lord powers of being able to appear to Wilfred and try and influence things. Also, the the fact that got me was she voted against what Rassilon was planning, which is why she effectively she becomes a weeping angel, isn't she? That's why she's got the pose. It's punishment for going against the High Council. She believed that strongly that they shouldn't do this. And I think there's a scene where she's shaking her head at the Doctor. She knows this has got to happen, whether whatever happens to her. And I think that that look that's why he knows he's got to do what he's got to do. And I think that's why it's just so powerful. But again, it doesn't need to be said. Lots of things don't need to be said. I quite like that it's ambiguous.
Thank God. That's all I can say. Thank God they didn't say anything. They didn't make it clear.
Yeah, I'm happy they didn't make it clear as well. I think it's a nice, not an Easter egg as such, but I think it exists in the margins. I think there's a poetry to it and a mystique about it, which and a bit of a lightness of touch as well, which isn't not necessarily what you get from Russell T Davies' Doctor Who. But when he does bring it, I think he brings it quite well. Claire Bloom is still around, and she was certainly still acting up until 2 years ago. She's 92 now.
Wow.
Wow. Good for her.
Crazy.
Could she return to
as old as Clint Eastwood?
To tie up this loose end? That's the thing. We did see a character in the series 9 story Hellbent who was also seemingly the Doctor's mother, or is a matriarch figure who's raised him.
It's the cleaner.
Played by a different actor. Yeah, it's seemingly, like I say, it could be just any old dear, couldn't it? It could be a babysitter, a nanny, or we don't know. We know so little about Time Lord Society. It could be anybody, but there was speculation. I can't remember what she was listed as in the cast. Whether she was listed as the woman, this actress, I'll have to go back and check that. But it would be unfair of me not to mention her. But yeah, Claire Bloom in that character, if she's still up for it, I think that's also a possible, being as we are returning to a David Tennant incarnation, and that we do seem to be picking up loose threads from that Russell T Davies era. I don't think it's impossible, Ian, and despite what I've just said about I kind of like it left as it was. Yeah, I do also. Part of me sort of niggles at me, and I'd like to know for sure. Maybe I don't want to know for sure. I don't know. I think if we didn't know for sure that something like that would be kind of harmless in a way that things that other people have done, namely the world's worst showrunner Chris Chibnall, that wasn't harmless at all. Whereas I think this could be quite harmless and be fine. But,
I don't know. As I said, I just think the Doctor should be. We shouldn't know too much about him at all. And that's how it was for Classic and even in New Who up to a point. And then they started telling us things and River Song and all that nonsense. And I kind of lost it with a bit, and I just preferred the Doctor to be the smartest man in the room. He knows the universe. He knows which aliens are attacking. Do you know what I mean? Just like the Classic. And but I'm old fashioned that way, though.
Yeah, and I'm with you.
Yeah, it is an anniversary story, though. This is why I'm
just looking it up, Dan, and she was just put in as the woman.
She was cleaner woman as well. But that would have been deliberate. It's not a woman or the woman. Then it is meant to be the same character. Naughty Moffat for putting more cloud in that water. Bunch of Wallace says she's his baby mama. Come back for child support. Collect the old payments. What a frightening thought, Bunch of Wallace. The doctor's crumpet says.
Oh Lord, no! Stop it
now. Where's the Doc's dad? Says Peter Harrington. Heaven knows.
They don't have dads.
Especially the BBC. No dads are allowed. There you go.
Home help, says Peter Harrington. I think he's talking about the second woman. Dear
Mind
me,
you, that place does need cleaning up, doesn't it? That one where he's just standing with the light coming through it needs cleaning up. So yeah,
it does. The barn, the barn from Hellbent. Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah, so who knows? Yeah, that's. I'll have to go back and watch this.
Bit of a clean.
Yes, so that is that. The Doctor's family members, possibly, that we know of so far. I think as I said before, if the theme is unfinished business, then perhaps any of those characters could return. I think there's particular appetite for Susan. You know, the other two, it's kind of a bit of fun, really. But I don't think I could.
Susan would be great.
I can imagine any Doctor Who fan wouldn't be happy to see Susan back, played by Carol Ann Ford, but we all seem to be on the right page with that. Again, a reminder that, we haven't seen anywhere near all of what these specials are going to bring us. David Tennant said this last year: we filmed with a lot of other people on a close set. I keep reading this because people keep forgetting. You're nowhere near the whole story. Stay tuned. As far as I know, no one has quite figured out yet what Catherine and I were doing there. I think there is a lot of theory, a lot of speculation, but I'm very excited for people to see the tiny little cog we are in Russell's great machine.
Hugh Grant!
All will be revealed sooner rather than later. It's just 7 weeks until the 60th anniversary date of Doctor Who. If we have got our detective work right, this should all kick off before that date, maybe a couple of weeks before. But as for all this speculation, this is proud speculation here on Type 40 Live. What do you think? Do you think there's any potential in this? Do you think any of it's likely? Susan or Jenny or the woman? What do you think about the prospects for any of those three characters, or all three? Let us know in the comments section here on the video, or reach out to us through our social media, Instagram and Twitter at Type 40 Doctor Who. And we're counting down to those specials. There'll be more speculation and more celebration of the various elements that we know about so far. And hopefully we're going to get some more announcements soon. They've got to tell us something. Even if they can't tell us everything, they've got to tell us something. And you'll get our gut reactions, for better or worse, and we can compare them with yours there in the live chat too. And really grateful for all your comments, for indulging all of this nonsense here as we've gone through this. Yes, I think most people are open to most things, but particularly Hugh Grant. Ian, I think Hugh Grant is still a very popular pick.
I really do hope Hugh Grant turns up in this.
It's never going to happen.
I know
you do, mate. We know you
dream.
do.
Well, according to the Lord High President, I seem to have caused a problem in the universe. Well, it isn't me, it's probably the Time Lords continually using me as some kind of galactic yo-yo. Might I suggest you actually watch Type 40 podcast? That should have all the answers you need. There's always time. Well, I have rather an abundance of it, don't I?
He's good.
He is good.
Yeah.
He's great. One more thing, everybody, rounding off with a last look at the view screen, our regular eye into the vortex in search of the prettiest pictures from out there in the Whoniverse. Ian, you love this bit, don't you, buddy?
I do.
I'm glad you've said that. I'm glad you've said that. And they do too. They love a bit of Doctor Who there. Doctor Who's 60th anniversary, it continues to inspire all manner of creatives and crafters, fan writers and cosplayers. And we include all of that, or most of that, in our Pretty Pictures gallery, as always. Got some lovely stuff to look at, and people take inspiration from the strangest of things. And we mentioned Star Wars earlier on there, Simon, and Star Wars, of course, pioneered, didn't it, the idea of sort of heavily merchandising a movie and that action figure line. It changed movies completely, didn't it, in the way that we exploit entertainment, really.
Yeah, and merchandise, it changed merchandise completely, because prior to that, figures had always been this big, and suddenly they're that big. And it completely changed everything. And don't forget, they were made down the road. They're made down the road from you and I, down in Leicester. They weren't made a million miles away in Leicester.
What?
George Lucas, he made him rich because he had that in his contract, and the studios were like, "You can have it. You can have the merchandise thing," and they obviously regret it. So made him rich.
Leicester, of course, hometown of the wonderful Shah, she couldn't be on tonight, but she's been in the live chat. So hello, Shah, out there, wherever the Shah this is landing this weekend. Hope you have a good one. We do miss you. Come back soon. Yes. So that accepted that Star Wars did change everything. Star Wars figures. Yeah, we all love them. But for years, I hankered for Doctor Who figures, Jack. And in my childhood, the Daypole figures just came too late for me. Fortunately, we got the character options figures. And those were very, very successful. But I think that the line does need a sort of a shot in the arm to get back in the hands of little kids for it to really be exploited properly this time. And it's inspired. Just that idea has inspired SF Creations to come up with these concepts for all new Doctor Who figures here. So we've got the 14th and the 15th Doctor, and their customs and their cards here. So very Star Wars like, I think.
Yeah.
What the hell with the David Tennant one? What is that stuck on his head? Is he Elvis or something? What the hell?
He does have a quiz.
What the hell? Anyway.
It's funny because I have wondered if this is why they keep putting the 15th Doctor in all these endless costumes, because they know they can just sell 20 times the number of figures, because everybody will have to buy all the different variations on all the different costumes. I do wonder, because there'll be endless action figures for these.
But not if nobody's interested, though, Simon.
Well, no, of course, but they're banking on, I guess, people being, and so you just, as I say, they could literally, you could have a whole rack of just the Doctor in all these different outfits. Endless possibilities for dozens of different little action figures. It's quite horrifying when you think about it. So it's going to make a lot of money.
I'd love to see them just on these simple cards like this in every supermarket up and down the country, every B&M bargains, and not just B&M either. I want to see them in the range. I want to see them in Home Bargains, all these places, anywhere you can buy this stuff, in HMV, everywhere, Jack. I think this needs to be sort of a ground level assault on the British public again.
Yeah, certainly. And, we need to be reminded that Doctor Who's back. Like the merchandise stuff I like. Don't get me wrong, I've loved all the sets that Character Options have been doing recently, but
they're great.
I just think there needs to be more availability. I mean, the amount of times I've gone into my local one and just seen the David Tennant sets there, I'm like, great, I want
you're
more
right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Or the Yaz, Graham, and the other bloke ones, like as they drift down to £1.79. I saw that for in the end. Yeah, £1.79. I know.
Too expensive.
I think this would be nice, and I love the fact that fans are so inspired by this. I mean, and SF Creations has made a really nice job of this with the backing card there.
It's beautiful, and it's it's put a lot more work in than sometimes what you actually get.
Yeah, very clever.
Yeah.
He's holding his screwdriver, isn't he? The Tennant.
He certainly is.
Yeah.
He is. A bunch of Wallace says, looks like he's got a nappy on. Who does?
Yeah, David Tennant does look a bit like he's got a nappy on. It has to be said.
There is some grooves around the groinal vicinity, aren't there?
Yeah, it's a bit dodgy, but there we go.
They're obviously both repainted figures from some other line where some clever sod has done
That's
that.
right.
Yeah.
Always do that. Always do that. Yeah, because that looks like a character from Ghostbusters when the Ghostbusters line came out.
Oh,
yeah, it looks like
you're right. Yeah. What's his name? The fourth Ghostbuster.
Vecman, maybe, or
no,
even
not Vecman. Oh, come on! What's the other one called?
You mean Egon Spengler, don't you?
That's it.
No,
Egon. No, the other. You mean Ray? Ray Stantz.
Ray.
Winston is the shooty doctor.
Shooty one, yeah.
It's the shooty doctor.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so yeah, it could be because they do that a lot, don't they? They get the thing and they do that. Interesting.
It's all good.
Interesting. Yeah, it's all good.
I think that's a really. do see these from time to time, but this has been the one that's impressed me most because I do like the fact that he's gone to the trouble of creating the backing cards as well, Jack, and just to remind me not just of the 80s when I was getting Star Wars figures and things like that, but of buying Character Options figures when the series was at the height of its popularity. So, and I think we all want it back in that place as soon as possible, and some good merchandise there to support that new generation of fans. AI art, on the other hand, freaks me out a little bit. But some of it does make me smile. And I saw this. I haven't even got anybody to credit this with, but I saw this week. I just thought it was so bizarre. I've got so many questions.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
So many questions, but I'm not sure I even want the answers, Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's hungry, isn't he? He's trying
What
to get
is
some
that
fish.
even about?
He's hungry.
Is it supposed to be the Cyber King? Is it the Cyber King?
It's the Cyber Fisher King.
Oh yes, of course it is the Fisher King. Brilliant. We got there eventually.
It's one of those clump Cybermen, isn't he?
It is. It's the Fisher King. It's the Fisher King. Brilliant.
Oh, do you think that's you think that is a genuine reach?
It is the Cyber King, and he's fishing. I think Sarah's got it right. It's the Fisher King. He's just being clever to play on words.
When he get rusty, stays in that water.
It's just pretending.
Get very rusty.
I don't know why this caught my eye, but it made me laugh just the same way that it did you lot.
Of course it caught your eye. He's got a rod in his hand. That's just your level.
God, blimey. Come on, you're getting... What do people think of me? AI art creeps out Matthew Pounder. I know exactly what you mean, Matthew.
Yeah, it depends what it is.
I do. Particularly as that one guy, they look like they're in canoes, but you can't actually see their canoes, can you? Fantastic Cyberman painting, says Ezra Goldstein. At the Lake District, speculating.
Moving on. It's not light. It's fine. We can get rid of it.
He's making a rod for his own back, says Peter Harrington. Ouch.
Lord, how many more?
And Sally Wagenblatt says there's something fishy going on. Yeah, I can't. I shouldn't really complain after some of the gags I come out with on this show, should I? Really?
No more. Stop.
Next, we've got this fabulous. Now, earlier on, Simon, this is why I wanted to show you this, because earlier we talked about the very first VHS release, didn't we? Revenge of the Cybermen, and how that release in '83 eventually took 20 bloody years, led to every Doctor Who story coming out on VHS. And seeing those old sleeves, I get very nostalgic for that time.
Oh yeah, so do I. Very, very nostalgic. Some of those covers were great.
They were. And it doesn't just make me nostalgic, it does some of the younger generation too, including fan artist The Prydonian, who's created this for a fantasy Doctor Who story of his own imagining. Triumph of the Daleks.
Oh, that's fantastic.
A Troughton story we never got, which co-starred Wendy Padbury and Fraser Hines there as Jamie and Zoe. And he's even put down that it was produced by Peter Bryant, and it's got a runtime of 136 minutes. There's an entire plot line there. So you can find this up on the Prydonian's Twitter account. But I just think this is wonderful, very evocative, and very Troughton.
I love the degradation of the VHS cover.
Yeah, it's really clever what he's done there.
Yeah.
Gosh, the detail, even like the certificate and the the ratings, everything,
BBC
Worldwide. Who's Harry Draper? I'm wondering whether that's sort of an in-joke. Maybe Harry Draper is the Prydonian, I don't know.
It says here, copyright BBC Worldwide 1990. So that's just when they started to put out the sell-throughs unedited, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He's done a lovely job with this, but I think he's got the Daleks. They're using sort of Tommy guns or guns that were similar to the Death of the Daleks guns, Simon, rather than the laser gun.
Or they're almost similar to the Chase with they've got flamethrower guns as well.
That's it, yeah.
It's kind of a cross between the two. But I love the dome lights as well. The fact that they're just sort of glinting there in the darkness on that one on the right hand side.
It's so evocative, isn't it?
It is. I do want to see that story. I don't know about you.
And this is going down very well in the live chat if you're out there watching Prydonian. Excellent artwork, says Kieran. I love the wear and tear on the VHS sleeves as the time scales got nice and fantastic and brilliant, and all these comments as always. Whenever we put any of James's work up on screen, I really love this, and I'm very nostalgic for the VHS days now, Ian. Wave after wave of nostalgia being a Doctor Who fan.
It takes me back. That does. It takes me back to the late '80s when I was doing the Whovians magazine, Second Dimension, the old fanzine, and we once pulled an April Fool gag. And it was before Tomb of the Cybermen had been returned to the archive. And we pulled this gag where we claimed the Tomb of the Cybermen had been returned, was being released on VHS. And we did exactly what the Prydonian's done there. But of course, it was really hard in those days because this was before computers. So we did it all by hand. Andy Lambert did the artwork, and we did exactly what Predonian has done here. We copied the logo, we copied the typeface, we copied the style, the box, all the rest of it, and the pictures on the back. And it was a nightmare to do because we were doing it all freehand. And of course, Predonian probably did that in a couple of hours on the computer.
Oh yeah.
But it takes me back a bit. That does. It's fantastic, brilliant.
Done a lovely job, and nice nice image to finish off with. I think this time it does make me want to go up to the loft and get the old VHS tapes down. Just got no shelf space for them anymore. What a crying shame! What a crying shame! As always,
do a show. One of these days, we've got to do a whole show on VHS.
Yep, definitely.
I'd love to do that. Mate. Yeah, I think that's a definite. What have you got there, Ian?
The Indiana Jones trilogy. That's what I've got on VHS. The whole thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool actually. Because look, you can upside down. You can see.
Oh, in the American style card sleeves. That's nice.
VHS.
Gorgeous. I'm very fond of VHS. I still prefer it to DVDs. I've got to be honest.
My picture wasn't very good though.
No,
there's something very romantic about it.
Yeah, VHS.
It was a fantastic time. Collecting those Doctor Who releases was quite frustrating, but it was a fantastic time. And I think we are going to have to do a whole show about them at some point. Maybe when things aren't quite so frantic.
I threw them away. I had all of them.
I gave them all to the charity shop.
Oh, did you? I just threw them away. I just because I thought VHS was over. So I got a whole load of VHS. I couldn't throw this one away because this is my favorite trilogy. So I just threw everything else away. Even the 5 Doctors threw away. How stupid could you be? Threw away the 5 Doctors.
You reckless fool
right now.
Madness.
To the colour drain from Jack's face. I think a VHS show is almost certainly coming soon to Type 40. It may be next year for 2024. In fact, I think we've got a couple of things cooking in that respect, because obviously for the rest of the year, we're going to be caught up in the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who. What's to come with David Tennant leading the show, Ncuti Gatwa taking it over. So much to talk about. Lots to be revealed, lots of conversations to have, lots more comments from you there in the live chat too on YouTube, Rumble and Facebook. Please keep them coming. If you keep coming, we'll keep doing it. That's the deal. Time to close out now. I think it's been a great show.
R2 again.
Type 40 Live next week, same time and space. Please like this video, particularly if you had a good time after all this time. Even if you've not had a great time, please just like it anyway. What you can dislike it if you like it, all counts. Like or subscribe to the channel and hit the cloister bell to get the notifications about what's coming next and when it's coming your way. Live streams, podcasts, little extra videos, lots of things cooking. Heaven knows what we're going to be doing when the anniversary stories actually air. We'll probably spontaneously combust in excitement, Jack.
Oh, I am. I'm so excited, honestly.
Are you really? It does see you.
Yeah. Like honestly, we've been waiting for so long now, and it's just like we're so close. Next month.
It's hard to believe, isn't it? You can go through the rest of the agonizing wait with us. Of course, you can through our social media, Instagram and Twitter at Type 40 Doctor Who, or live it with us in the Type 40 Facebook group. There's regenerations worth upon regenerations worth of Doctor Who fans there, willing the next 7 weeks to whiz by all together. Go and get stuck in over there with all the shenanigans, all the conversations, and drop your pictures too. Drop your favourite VHS sleeve for that matter. Tell us about the fan artists that you like, or just vent your spleen, or air the speculation about who could possibly be coming back. And you can do it over a Jaffa cake or a jam tart. It's all the same to us here at Type 40 and Type 40 Live. As always, everybody, thank you for your company out there in the live chat, in the comment section. Some absolute gold there. We've loved it tonight. And as always, thanks to you guys for your company. So Sarah Graham, Ian David Diaz, the Mega Geek, the nerd in his den. We got Jack. Thanks again, mate. And Simon Horton, of course. Another great show in the books. More next time. Something special coming up on Monday. We'll let you know more about that over the weekend on the social medias, I think. But stay tuned. You've got to hit the cluster bell to get the notifications and watch the social medias too. But for now, that's it. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. Thank you, everybody, for all of the comments. That's it for another one. We're going to fly. Night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.